Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Complete Street Special Meeting Agenda. It's April 10th, 2025. As we're calling the meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. As a note, Commissioner Suresh is currently calling in remotely, so I need to read a special note to validate this. So Commissioner Van Kropman will participate in the meeting via video conference from the site below, location in Bangalore, India. The meeting agenda will be posted via video conference site, which is accessible to the public. Anyone wishing to address the commission or from the video conference site will be provided the opportunity to do so. And then, Suresh, is there anyone else in the room with you?
No, there isn't. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, next up is establishing quorum. Already call roll call, please.
Yeah. Commissioner Banerjee.
Present.
Commissioner Venkataraman.
Present.
Commissioner Lee.
Present.
Vice Chair Pietra.
Present.
Commissioner Katz. Here. Commissioner Snyder. Not here. And Commissioner Hempel. We have one.
Thank you. Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all please stand. On the count of three. 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up is public comment for items not on the agenda. And currently we have
No, we don't have, because that's part of the discussion item.
discussion.
So we
My
don't,
apologies.
we don't have any.
Yep. None for you. Excellent. So no public comments that are not on the agenda. So moving on to discussion items for this special meeting. We are here today to talk about the fiscal year 2024-25 annual street resurfacing project. We have a presentation from the city staff presented by Stephen Sun. We'll be talking about microsurfacing, mill overlays, and our plan to address the streets of Los Altos for the coming year. The intention of this meeting is to have a discussion, review the, long PDF of shared plans that were sent, somewhere around 70+ pages. So there will probably be some particular discussions, I'm presuming, about some particular streets, but we look forward to your presentation, Stephen. And with that, over to you to begin.
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to thank everybody for attending this special meeting. The intent of this meeting is an opportunity for the public to weigh in on the proposed design of the 2024-25 annual streets project. This is a first blush at this. There's an opportunity to get feedback from the public, from the commissioner. And if there's anything that is modified, that needs to be modified, we will be modifying it. Again, I just want to reemphasize that this is just a presentation. This is not the final plan. If there's anything that is we need to incorporate in this design, we will go ahead and be doing that. As I presented in previous meetings, we have a list of projects that we want to go ahead and do for the 24-25, actually 25-26 fiscal year annual streets project. I will start off with the micro resurfacing that is proposed for the downtown area. Kind of give you a general idea of some of the safety features and some of the safety enhancement that we're proposing to do for the downtown area. I know that not all commissioner has a copy of this plan, so let me just go and share this with you. Let me just start off with the downtown area for the micro resurfacing, just kind of give you a general idea of what is micro resurfacing. Micro resurfacing is basically a rejuvenation of existing road that has been weathered, basically. The oil itself is no longer in the asphalt itself. The road itself has become brittle, and some of the fines that is in the asphalt is basically gone. So the purpose of this project is to try to rejuvenate the road itself. We introduce some of the fine that is necessary to extend the life of a project. This is a pretty common practice to do to extend the life of the project or a street for somewhere between 7 to 10 years, depending on the use. The limits of this project is basically on the downtown corridor. It'll be Main Street from Foothill, well, actually just north of First Street on Main Street, all the way to State Street. We're gonna be basically rejuvenation on the road itself. The purpose of this is to not only just rejuvenate the road, but Main Street as well as State Street. The existing striping is very faded. So some of the common complaints I received is the fact that I can't see the center line, or I can't see the parking stalls. So with that in mind, we are going ahead and redoing the road. We're also, because the city is relatively dark at night because of our we don't want to install streetlights. So one of the enhancements that is going to be introduced as part of this project is, instead of just striping the road, we're enhancing the road, which means that we're putting in reflective beads in the paint itself so that it really pops out, stands out. We're also putting in reflectors on the road itself, so that even if it is dark on the road, or if there's a weathered situation like a storm, the headlight itself will reflect off of those enhancements, so you still be able to see the road itself. If you guys drive on Jordan at night, that is a good example. That's one of the things that we just started to do. So the striping itself really pops out with the headlights. So just kind of give you a general overview. This is the limits of the work itself, and the fact that the location that you see right here is approximately where the county has stopped doing their work when they went ahead and did the intersection improvements. So we will go ahead and micro research the area. The crosswalk on First has been very much faded. We're going to go ahead and restripe it. And then from there on, we're going to show that the road itself is a shallow road. We're putting in enhanced center line along this whole route. Also, to be an ADA compliant, we're also installing some ADA ramps, ADA stalls throughout the whole Main Street. We did look at State Street, but the width of the street of the road itself and the existing parking, parallel parking, does not allow us to go ahead and just install ADA ramps. So on Main Streets, we're installing various ADA ramps, where if the stall itself is somewhere in the middle, or the ramp is in the middle or mid-walk, where you could have parking stalls on both sides of that ramp, we're making not only just regular ADA accessible, but we're also making that accessible. So this will enhance and comply with the American Disability Act. So we're continuing on. This is about what is that? Red Berry, approximately right here. There's a lot of cafe. There's a parklet. To alleviate some of the site visibility issue, we're actually removing some of the parking stalls close to that crosswalk. The first two parking stalls close to that crosswalk impedes an ability to see a pedestrian in the wanting to walk across the crosswalk. So by doing that, we're going ahead and removing those two crosswalks, making it into an island, and we're going to be installing a bike lane at that bike rack at that location to encourage people to ride into downtown, park, and walk in the area. We're also implementing the daylight rule, where we're basically putting in 20-foot red curb on both sides of the crosswalk, so that we're kind of bringing more sight into visibility, make the pedestrian more visible. So what I did is I just kind of give you a general overview, and then you just kind of go through and analyze what are some of the proposed improvements that is going to be implemented on.
Stephen, do you want the commissioners to hold for questions or
Yeah,
do
if
you
you don't
want,
mind,
or do you want section by section?
To help me orient myself
Yeah,
on that, extract where you're showing the bike racks being put in. What is the intersection that's closest to that?
It'll be Third and Main.
Third and Main.
It's between Third and State, right in front of Country. I forgot what the restaurant is. Thank you. It's right in front of the coffee shop. It's right next to, I think there's a Vapor Taco, and then there's a Italian deli. And there's something else in that location.
What is that very?
Right, yeah, right, right here, where the park is located next to Lou's.
We're looking at my computer discussion.
Another question? No? Do you have another question or comment, or is that it? That was it. Okay.
Okay. I'm just trying to. It is one of those days. Okay, so. So this kind of show. Oh, I'm delayed. Okay. I don't know what's going on. I apologize. My computer is really slow for some odd reason. I'll be entertaining some options while I have questions while my computer decides to cooperate.
Possible to use your iPad, to join a meeting and present that way.
No, actually, it's
everything's on his computer.
unfortunately everything's on my laptop. I cannot access the computer, the server.
Or do you have access to those files by chance?
Did you download it? Did you download to your desktop?
Actually go into P drive under the project.
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
125.
Let me save it back up.
Will you see us meeting? Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that.
Stay next. Yeah. Tap your desk or something, of course.
Right there. And the bike parking.
Legacy. Yeah,
Okay, next one.
I'll control it.
So basically, one of the enhancement is the fact that we're going ahead and enhancing the striping. So basically, we're putting continental crossing at this location. As you can tell, this is what is being proposed at this point in time. Where basically, right now, this is how the intersection looks. When you're driving through that area, you cannot really see the crosswalk. The concrete band and the concrete crosswalk kind of blends in with the surrounding area. So the logic behind that is just like a typical crosswalk, we're going to be putting a white stripe just to enhance the visibility of the crosswalk, as you can see at this location. This is just kind of these two kind of just shows how much the color has bled, and you just can't see it. So by doing this, we want to improve the site visibility of a crosswalk so that anybody that drives through this area is clearly see that it is a crosswalk at this location. Go to the next one. This detail 22, this is what is being proposed to go ahead and install throughout the center line for the downtown area. Right now, the striping in this area is just a paint. There's no reflectivity. So when at night, it gets kind of muted in the fact that the light itself does not really reflect off striping. So by placing these reflectors, you can kind of see the outline of the center line. And then it's the paint itself, we will be spreading reflective beads in it. So it will basically adhere to the paint itself so that it really stands out. Next one. This is the one that we are basically enhancing the crosswalk. Redberry, I believe, is right about here. This is, what was that restaurant again?
Country Gourmet.
Thank you. That is located right about here. So we have a parklet in this general area. So we are removing the first two parking stall. This is going to be an island so that when a car comes through this area, they could easily see the pedestrian that's coming out to wanting to cross. Been out there numerous times. Even if it is a small like Prius that parks at this location, is all you see is just the top of somebody's head, and it really makes it difficult for someone to see that somebody's going to be walking. So by doing this, we're trying to open up the site visibility in this area. We're also making R1-6 as a reminder to the public that they need to yield to the pedestrian crossing the street. Like I stated, we're going to put in 20-foot daylight. The rules basically states that we need to put it in approaching the crosswalk, but just to provide visibility for cars going in the opposite direction, we're putting 20-foot buffer on both sides to basically provide for side visibility for any cars that's driving through the main street.
Yeah, what's the lifetime of that sign in the middle of the street?
Depends on how often it gets hit. I hate to say it, but it has been getting hit quite a lot.
Yeah.
But this does allow for the public to be aware that there is a crosswalk. I don't know if the public is aware of it, and I'm trying to find out where I could put a sign on Main Street, but our code ordinance does not allow you to make that U-turn if they happen to see a parking space on the other side. It does, our code does not allow you to do that, but people have been doing it. And so one of the things,
There's no sign that says no U-turn.
that's why I said, we're trying to put a location where we can put that sign to discourage people from doing that. The PD, and the whole reason why PD has not been really enforcing it per se is they want to know where that sign is located at, but they like them installed so that they can really start enforcing that.
Is it not state law that it's illegal to cross the double yellow line?
State law basically says you can make a left turn, but you cannot make a U-turn. So this is just a solid double yellow that people are just doing it. So they're just,
But can you left turn into a parking spot? You can left turn into a driveway, but into a parking spot, is that?
well, the problem is a lot of times they're kind of making a U-turn.
I've seen this behavior in downtown Sunnyvale, in a similar situation by the Phil's Coffee where people are trying to get spots and a police officer sits there and just writes tickets left and right for the same thing. So I was like, well, it's clearly illegal. But left turns were being made, but not the U-turns.
So the police has asked us to go ahead and put signs on both sides of the entrance so that they could really start enforcing. But this is something that they have done in the past and they just kind of got away from it. These are some of the major safety features that we're installing onto this project to really try to provide safety in the downtown area. Commissioners, I believe you saw an email from Safe Routes to School Coalition for the downtown area asking for basically enhanced crosswalk, basically what do you call it?
Raised.
Raised crosswalk. The problem with that is it actually does delay, emergency response. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why the fire department is so adamant against installing those. Because that 10-second delay makes a big difference, especially if you have multiple, elevated crosswalks. It really delays the response. So that's one of the reasons why we're not installing it, just for that reason. The fire department has been very adamant about not installing those. The other thing that, yeah, that's basically it. Those are the major highlight at this location. So I just want to kind of give you a general idea of what is a major enhancement that we're implementing on this downtown area. Yes, sir.
One quick question, just in terms of all the striping and changes that you're proposing.
Mhm.
Does it make any changes to the current traffic pattern that we see downtown?
No,
Or
it
is it
does not.
simply restriping what's there with the more visible crosswalks?
Correct. There was a question that came up about, I guess there was a discussion about making downtown into one-way flow of the downtown area. That was not considered at this point in time. That if we wanted to do that, that conversation needed to be done, probably about a year ago. At this point in time, I'm just trying to enhance the safety. Please keep in mind that the treatment that we're proposing at this point in time is probably gonna last somewhere between 4 to 6 years. If we maintain it properly, it can last us 7 to 10 years. But with all the stuff that's going on with all the parklets and so on, I just wanted to get it done because we're trying to encourage more pedestrian. And if we don't do some of the striping, some of the stuff that is being proposed under this project, I'm just going to concern that our safety is not going to make it as perfect.
And I have another follow-up question. And that is, does any of the changes that are being made, do the changes eliminate parking places that currently exist? So the parking slots get eliminated, in which case, how many?
I don't know at the top of my head right now exactly what that number is. We are reducing some parking space, but not a whole lot. We're also going ahead and restriping the existing parking space in the fact that the existing parking space width and dimension is not compliant. We're actually making it more uniform and be more compliant with the city limits. I believe some of those locations were like 11 or 12 feet wide. And we're actually reducing that to like 9 and 10.
I think would be good to know what the net impact would be on downtown parking
I will
between the slots that are being added because of the change in the width, plus whatever slots are being removed, due to the like parking or whatever. And because I think the downtown merchants would be very interested, as with the Chamber of Commerce, in understanding what the impact on parking is.
I'll provide that information by our next meeting, the exact count. If you like, Commissioner, I could also set a follow-up with the what the number of parking stalls.
I hesitate to chime in a lot. Parking is precious in downtown, but you know what? And don't tell anyone. When the parking spots are too narrow, I park on the line and I take up 2 spots so nobody door dings me and so I can get in and out of my car. So just be aware if you make your parking spots too narrow, like people have odd behaviors. And some people choose not to go to certain places. Like there will be some restaurants that I'll be like, I'm not going there, I just can't park my car. Just something to think about. There's a long time ago when Jeannie Bruins was on the dais. Kept council majority from voting on making parking spots downtown too narrow by talking about an experience of having to climb out through the passenger seat to like get out of the car or to get back into a car. So So parking is precious, but parking also needs to, we also need to make sure people are comfortable coming downtown. And I think that's then one of the benefits of our downtown is people are very comfortable coming there versus like crowding in the jam packed kind of.
Just, I don't know whether this is something to consider or not, but I was up at UCSF last week. And on the streets that are around UCSF, on some of the streets, there are clearly some of the diagonal parking that are marked compact car that are narrower than the other parking on the other part of the street. And so, that might be one way to address the situation if you want to.
Yeah, I support that, is having a mix of things. I know you're trying to go uniform, but I will walk extra blocks to not park in one of the compact spots.
We make an additional action item for you just to share the requirements of the lane sizes for parking, Stephen.
I'm looking for that right now. It's just,
You want me to stop sharing this one?
I don't mind short spots when it's not on the diagonal. I can parallel park really good.
I may make additional request. Can you please add the net changes to addition of bike parking as well? I know we talked about this in the past meetings, just about having bike parking spaces downtown. The fact that you're adding them is great. And so we're looking at numbers. That's nice to have that.
My spaces.
Yeah.
we're actually,
Locations and spaces.
we're actually adding additional bike stalls, not just in this location, but in other places as part of our.
Yeah.
The downtown parking lot renovation.
I have another quick question.
Yes, sir.
The downtown parking as it exists today. When there are spots, for example, in the parklets, I don't know if this is on the streets as well, that have the white dots on them, white circular dots that are about the size of the, that pleasure plate. Does that mean that those spots are designated for employees of merchants
Yes,
with longer parking? So do they have a permit
They
or
do
is
have
it
a
just,
They
they do
do.
have a permit?
yeah, they do pay for a permit.
How did you know this, out of curiosity? Is this general knowledge or is it stated on the sign?
Just Carnock just
Right.
tells me stuff.
Staff has been going out there, refreshing those dots.
This is a question, is this a city ordinance or a city law that residents would know if they parked in that spot, they would be ticketed potentially, or is this a? Like if we're restriping, resurfacing, potentially redoing circle dots, how would the general public know not to park in those spots?
I'm not 100%.
Okay, would you?
If you want to know, I will have to find out.
Typically, there's a sign that says,
For reserved
employees, more than the hours,
Oh, beyond the.
beyond the hours. That's why they're there.
Typically, places they have.
Anybody can park there, but if you don't want to get a ticket, you have to have a permit.
No. Right. Everybody can park there. The employees with their certificate can park 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever. It's only hours.
Yeah.
And all the parking lots are 3 hours.
typically there's a sign that
There must
tells
be a
you
sign
the
somewhere that
restrictions.
says some.
A center width of across our
Thank you.
parking stalls are 9 feet. That is very typical even for private parking. So. It's
Now let's move on. Any other questions to the next slide or other information?
Is there any questions regarding what is being proposed for the downtown Main Street as well as State Street?
I think we need to show Space Street. You don't need Main Street. You want to show Space Street?
I have a question, oh, sorry. I have a
Yes, ma'am.
question about that. Can you just go back over the reflective beads and the reflectors? So the reflective beads are just being added in the center line striping, not in all of the surface.
The
paving?
center line.
Just the center line striping. And then on Hardin, do they have both the reflective beads and these reflective things, or just one of the two?
What area? Oh, Jardine has actually both.
They have both. So if we want to see what it looks like, that's the place to go.
Yeah, when you drive it at night, it really pops.
Okay. And then we may not know now, but we'd be curious to know what the downtown businesses and community think of the right striping, because that's kind of been something this, in large part, the city is kind of tried to keep toned down downtown overall. That striping can be a real pop at night.
Is there a particular request you have on that? I mean, I hear your
I get the
concerns,
down,
but
so just to make it really explicit, get the feedback from the downtown business community of, from
Actually,
a,
that's where our next step is after this.
yeah, perception perspective, because that nighttime, right, reflective painting is really bright, especially when it's first done, and it really changes the mood of a place. And I guess my other question is, has there been an issue downtown at night such that we're proposing to add this?
Can't, in an adverse weather situation, especially when it's raining really hard, it's really difficult to see, even with a brand new paint, to see where that center line is.
Okay. I'm not hearing then that there's a major issue, a major need for it, unless I missed something, but the downtown community, if they take a look at that and go at night and see what some of these places really look like, 'cause it's the bright reflective lights. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that there's nobody from the downtown coalition here to provide any feedback, but we're saying that there's gonna be some kind of feedback.
We
process.
actually have 2 meetings set up already with the downtown coalition to talk to business.
Yeah, make sure you ask these specific questions of them.
Yeah, what information I'm providing you guys or be the same information I'm providing them.
Yeah, not just provide them information, ask them questions, like, what do you think of these? You know, call it out as a question, because otherwise they may not have, I don't know who's on that group, but you otherwise may not hear things. The next thing I have is I think you were showing one of those fancy crosswalks and you're putting white lines by them.
Mhm.
Is that replacing white lines or adding white lines? I've been around a long time, but there was a period of time where Susanna Chan didn't want to add white lines at some of those downtown crosswalks because it was a look and feel thing.
If,
So it seems like city staff has evolved to a lot of change. And I don't know what the downtown community thinks of that, but Susanna Chan at one point wouldn't let commissioners who wanted those, get those added because it wasn't a downtown feel.
I mean, I think those particular crosswalks are concrete. If I recall on even the images, you can see their concrete pours with their particular concrete styling versus asphalt. So that's I guess, not very obvious, but having walked there today, yeah, this is different than the asphalt.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about, because they have they have like a style to them. And Susanna wouldn't let us put white lines next to those a few years ago.
You can zoom in on the next one, go back one slide, one more slide, there you go. The image in the upper right corner, so you see the difference in like the red.
the
Beige.
original paint was like a brownish color that has faded through the years. And it's, you can't see it at all. The whole reason why that is being proposed is to enhance the crosswalk, so it becomes very visible.
I hear you, you're just changing the whole style look of downtown, so I would get some more
Again, these are
feedback.
proposals, we are going to
Yeah.
the downtown and let them, give us
Right.
advice on what they want and see. So it's not like a final
Yeah,
decision, these are just proposals. And,
So these
But these public
crosswalks,
comments are great.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry.
So these crosswalks are right where Main and State kind of come together.
Actually, this is Main and First.
Meeting first.
So as soon as you make that right
Ah,
turn.
What is
into
it? What is it? Right there.
This is main
Because
here.
there's another area that's down at the other end where, we're kind of where you walk into the main plaza area
Mhm.
towards the clock,
Mhm.
right from State to Main. So it's right where it comes together, where you've got a crosswalk just like the one we're looking at up on the screen. That's a wide, brick where the color's totally faded.
Mhm.
And, are you doing it in that area as well?
Yes.
I mean, as a pedestrian, I think it's a good idea. So, personally, because I don't think cars realize when they're driving over it that it's a crosswalk. Necessarily. So I think it would be, because there's no markings at all whatsoever. on it. It's just, it's like, it's a different color and a different material.
If somebody wants to see what they look like, they're on Stevens Creek near 85 by the post office. They have these kind of style of crosswalks and then they put white paint over them. They add and you get a sense of what it looks like. And that area over there is kind of by Bug Road. It's a very industrial area, and even so, there's still like it's a change.
So the white paint would be a stripe or would be the whole crosswalk would be painted white?
Maybe striped, like it would be a continental,
Continental.
highway. Basically, it's an enhanced safety feature that clearly shows there is a pedestrian crosswalk at that location.
I just have a couple other quick things. I appreciate this interactivity and going kind of section by section is gonna make it easier.
Yeah.
So, from the downtown one-way loop, that's in the Complete Streets Master Plan.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things identified where where we wanted to conduct a study. So but I realize you're not gonna do that this month, but the idea there was to have a study of how the traffic would respond and flow with a one-way to make some decision. I do think there was a lot of really good ideas in the Safe Routes to Downtown recommendation email. And with respect to the raised crosswalks, I appreciate that maybe we can't have them absolutely everywhere, but I think in some locations, they are still needed, and we can't just hear a no from the fire department and just take their order, right? We're our own agency and we need to advocate for what's right for us. I would also say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from when we did Cuesta, those things were really expensive. Like $500,000, is that right? Like to do one raise on crosswalk? Yeah, so don't quote me on the price, but I think those might be a little bit more than a paving project, but I think maybe for the next meeting, I would be curious to find out the approximate price of one raised cross. And then Mr. Wing's feedback, excellent. I hope you can accept all of that because that's what I would like to see. And then the R16, I know Tony brought it up, but let me ask a more pointed question. When those signs come down, what is the SLA for maintenance to put it back up? To put the fallen sign back up or to replace it with a new one?
If it's something that we could just put it back up, we would replace it, we would put it up. But if it's totally destroyed where we cannot reuse it, we would put a new one.
Okay, but I think what I meant by the SLA was, how long does each of those two things take?
Cannot tell you at this point.
So maybe that's something, the next time we meet, talk to maintenance, let's get some sense of, like, when they go down, then what's the reasonable time that they come back up? It's been a problem throughout other places throughout the city, is they get knocked down and then they don't go back.
Yeah, so for example, there were two of those crosswalks on Edith Avenue
Mhm.
between Foothill and San Antonio. And both of those within, I don't know how long it was, but I'm gonna guess a year, have been knocked down sufficiently often to where they were simply removed. So I guess the real question is, I don't think it's a bad idea to put them in, but my guess is that the usage pattern of how, but also downtown, people don't drive as fast as they do on Edith. And my guess is it's the big oversized vehicles that are hitting them, that are, expanding beyond the lane for whatever reason. I can't see cars running into them. So, I think you'll know very quickly whether they, will stay or not stay. I don't think it's a bad idea to put them in.
I think it's a good idea to put them in, actually. I just think if, when they come down, they should be put back up. Because otherwise we shouldn't put them in. Like, I think that's really the decision. If, when they come down, are we putting them back in? Yes, great, these are great. If they come down and we're not putting them back in, or it's gonna take us 2 months or 3 months, then like, why are we doing it?
Commissioner Chang?
I disagree that it's a good idea to put them in the first place. I think they're just gonna get clobbered. I happen to be living near Morton and Grant, where we had one and it got blitzed right away. And the cars do take them out.
Do they?
because
Yes.
They're sloppy drivers out there.
Yes.
So,
But I think we're trying to protect the pedestrians in the crosswalk. So some effort should be made for that. And if you bent up signs, I think worth that effort as long as they're getting put back.
happier with the lights that we have. They seem to be much more effective. Realize it's probably more expensive, but replacing these signs frequently seems like a money-losing proposition.
I think the challenge downtown is with diagonal parking. That signage that's on the curb doesn't get seen by the drivers on the street. And I don't know what the alternative is, but and the traffic downtown also is driving at a much slower speed than on Edith or on Grant. So it actually might work better. But I don't know whether it will or not unless you try it. So that's my personal opinion.
Commissioner Suresh, do you have anything to add? I want to make sure that you get the opportunity to speak. If you need to say anything. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry, yeah. No, I think some of the points raised, I was gonna raise the same things, but I wanted to specifically call attention to the two intersections, along Main on that's First and Second. There have been multiple incidences we know of the last couple of years. And I kind of want to get a sense for, has the city staff specifically looked at those, and have there been any recommendations that you might have not considered at this time, or is there anything else that we can do to improve the safety on those two intersections? I mean, this is the same case in State, and Second and Third as well, but specifically Main, First, Second and Third has been problematic.
To answer your question, no, we have not looked into those. If we want to look at that, then we need to look at things more comprehensively. That goes along with making downtown into a one-way direction.
Yeah, and I think, I see that there's a recommendation for striping on those four intersections along with the one on Main and First. I am not sure just the striping is going to solve the problem, because there have been multiple times where, I mean, it's pretty common for traffic to just run through those stop lines in spite of those signs and the crosswalk existing. I think it's really worth taking a look at. I think this is I'm not sure if it's a long-term project or is something that the commission should take up this year. One of our work items is to look at downtown safety, and if that's a separate project to assess the situation, take into account all the incidences and make a better study as to what we are going to do. So given all these things, I don't know if the staff wants to wait until a later time to address the specific safety issues but go ahead with the striping, or to comprehensively look at it for next year. We could make this a more higher priority project and work on it. Anyways, that's my question and a recommendation at the same time. Regarding all the other details, I agree with, I think, some of the comments that have been made. I kind of worry about the look of downtown as well. If we have to paint these stripes, I would definitely take the input from the business community and see what they have to say. I will have to caveat that pedestrian safety is higher though, and if that's the only solution we have, then we may have to go with it for now, for temporarily. But again, I think has to be part of a larger study and conversation about downtown.
Thank you, Suresh. I have a follow-up question for you. So you're referencing on Main Street here is Second and Third Street, where on the lower image, is that correct?
Yeah, main, second and third intersections, yeah, especially second. There have been lots of incidences and there have been pretty serious incidences there.
Gotcha. So for this image, it's a four-way stop currently, and I only ask out of curiosity, do you have a recommendation or a thought on how you would make the four-way stop safer based off its current designs?
I mean, I don't have a specific recommendation. I think it's going to take us, it's, like I said, it's not like, I already made the caveat that, in spite of there's being stop signs and so on, people still run through those or, just slow down and go through. And this is a common habit for many people on vehicles in stop signs in general, but in downtown has pretty serious consequences. Anyway, so that, and I think staff knows there's at least been 2 or 3 serious incidents there with hospitalizations and so on. So I think we should take that pretty, we should take it seriously.
I think Tony, you have your hands raised first.
Yeah, so I'd like to suggest if we have some pushback on the crosswalks, maybe just doing perpendicular lines or perpendicular lines on the sides of the crosswalk rather than all parallel lines. That might be a compromise if they
Parallel.
Yeah. just delineate the edges of the crosswalk rather than trying to make it quite so visible. Just a proposed compromise.
Thank you.
I was gonna ask, is there a visibility challenge with the stop signs downtown? Yeah, I agree, Tony. The reason I asked the question is, as a driver, I know there's stop sign, four-way stops there and I just stop. Well, if those stop signs aren't, I don't feel like they're very visible when I'm driving along.
There's a lot of visual clutter there. It's very hard to make
Yeah,
out, but.
So
you know,
maybe that's some place to give some thought to when you come back. Is how, without the crosswalk thing, how do you make the stop sign and no flashing red stop signs? How do you make the stop sign more visible?
So I guess the follow-up question for that, I know we have substantial trees downtown, which is lovely. Is there vegetational overgrowth or tree blockage on these signs?
No,
Do we have the red stripes down the base pole of the stop signs
if you
down
can't
there?
see the stop sign, you can't see.
Just go have a look. There's just some, like both Tony and I are saying, as a driver, you don't really see those stop signs.
Well, a lot of times and the striping is so faded, you can't see it.
Steve,
Not
have you-
striking.
Have you considered painting stop on the street?
That's what we're gonna be doing.
That's Stop is already up there.
That's part of the.
So, I'm downtown almost every day, walking downtown. And I don't, my personal, this is anecdotal, I have no data. But my personal experience is that 99% of people are stopping at the four-way stop signs. Where I see a violation is people making U-turns in the intersections.
No, and
Who are driving down Main Street from State Street and decide they really want to go the other way and are not making a left turn, but a U-turn. And I don't see, I don't know how that could be dealt with, but I think that's an area that's a safety issue.
I believe that's legal.
the,
I believe that's legal.
It's a business district.
Right.
You think it's legal?
It's not.
You're
legal
allowed to
in
make a
business,
U-turn at an intersection, but not between or.
But not in a business district.
one of the issues also on top of that, Commissioner, is the fact that a lot of the drivers at these four-way intersections does the California rolling stop. And I've seen way too many times where pedestrians are crossing, assuming the car's gonna stop. And the cars do not see the pedestrian or they're too distracted and they're trying to do the California rolling stop and they're slamming on the brake last minute. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to try to enhance crosswalks to show that you have a pedestrian to be there, so they need to stop.
I'm gonna really quickly just call out a point of observation. We've gone through 6 slides and we have about 50 more to go. We will not get through these all if we continue in this pace, so I'll acknowledge your question, but I'm gonna ask us to move along, because I think we'll have a similar thread through the other slides and we should get through those. Unless there's an objection. Yeah, Tony?
Will the stop, repainting of the stop on the pavement be done with the reflective beads?
With that, you could proceed forward with the presentation.
I'll just control it.
Okay.
You want me to just control?
Just going.
That's already like that.
I'm not here to, just for point of order, I'm not here to hamper conversation, but if we can get just more of a theme and then we can.
Yeah, I think this is good. I think everybody's had their say.
And we can come back to it, you know. And we're Main Street next,
Go ahead and do the,
so that's State Street.
that's just, yeah. Basically, it's the same treatment as Main Street. Some of the areas that you see a hash mark are sections of the road where it has failed completely, and you see a lot of cracking. So we're gonna be digging up those areas and repaving those areas.
This is my Chris,
The hash mark on the screen you can see is before the stop sign on the right.
and that's what it means. Those would be extra. Any questions on State so far? It's pretty much the same kind of as Main. You want any comments on this?
Hmm.
Keep going.
That's basically it. I mean, you could go to university if you like, but university is basically gonna be, whatever the existing structures we're putting it back in.
Chair, can I have a quick question before we move on to university?
Yeah, go ahead, Suresh.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to reiterate a point that we have a public comment from Jim Wing about intersection of State and Main. There is a lot of confusion, traffic confusion, especially for vehicles turning from State onto Main either direction. There is a little bit of confusion in the lanes, and I see that people make either very narrow or wide turns. I'm not sure which lane to enter. I'm not sure. I think there was some solution proposed by Mr. Wing, but I think that's something to think about and see if we can do something in the striping to make that clear. I've run into, personally, I've run into multiple issues there, people coming onto ongoing traffic and so on. So something to think about.
Is that clear, Stephen, the ask? Okay.
I have two things. Not to pile on, but there's also confusion if you're on San Antonio and you're turning left onto Main. If you're coming from Foothill on San Antonio and you're turning left on Main at night, whoa. If you've never been there before, you can end up going the wrong way down the road.
Is that part of the road, part of the resurfacing?
No, that's part of the San Antonio
San
project.
Antonio.
Oh,
That's why it's San Antonio.
Okay, didn't know. The next last question I have is, these crosswalks you're proposing, are these yellow or white piano keys?
White.
Yeah, this is a lot, cause I actually, what was done in Cupertino against those fancy crosswalks is they did what I think Tony said, is they had a parallel line on each side, and even that popped. So this is like, yeah, okay. So see what the downtown.
But again, we're talking about safety, but that's what we're trying
See
to
what the
propose.
downtown.
Again, it's a proposal, so whatever, yeah. You want any comments?
Okay.
You good? The next one? University? Next.
Can you go back one slide, please?
Sure.
So in these crosswalks, just given the topic that is being raised by the commissioners, these crosswalks just have a railroad crossing, if you will, of sorts.
Continental.
Continental, thank you. Can you explain why continentals would be used in one instance and the other striping methods are used in the other instance?
The parallel lines that you're talking about is a standard crosswalk that is not high visible. You just see a white line crossing the street. the whole point of the Continental is in the direction of the view that shows that there is a line there, so it becomes very visible for a pedestrian, showing that there is a pedestrian crosswalk. So the whole point is to enhance safety for a pedestrian to cross this location, especially like on this one, Burke is a safe route to school. So we're trying to enhance the safety of the pedestrian crossing.
Tell me, Steve.
Basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to continue on with the Sharrow on the road itself. The road itself is 11 feet, just kind of give it the narrow field to try to get the car to slow down.
Yeah, stop us if you were caught.
With the Sharrows, do the Sharrows say shared with bike, or is it just a Sharrow?
Just the Sharrow stencil.
And is it expected the general public knows that that is a shared bike lane indicator, or is this,
I don't want to second guess the general public because they astound me at times. So they should, if they took basic driving test, they should know it.
No, I wasn't in the driving test when some of us have been driving
so
tests.
my second point was, maybe like recommendation might be at the entrance to the street itself off of the main intersection to say shared bike share. I think
Share the road.
at
Like a sign or something?
on Egan and Bullis, they have Sharrows, but it also says like bike share.
Boulevard or.
That's a
maybe-
bike boulevard.
It shares, it says as much, so it's very clear that a bike can be in the road with a car, and so it's nice for people to be reminded, and so I see these, I'm like, yeah, there's not some text to go along with it. Especially, I mean, not all my neighbors are people from have their parents visiting from other countries, which is wonderful. But I'm like, well, are they able to know that this also means shared bike path lanes? And then just general public, right? Like, are they aware that a bike might be in front of them and that's okay, so they don't get hit?
And are all these shows gonna look exactly as they do on the map, or are you gonna use the square ones with like the background painted and then the bike on top of it? Or
We could go
just
either
doing the
one.
bike stencil?
We could go either one. I mean, at this point in time, that's what we're proposing
This
to
is the one you're proposing.
because that is what is currently out there.
I don't know if other commissioners have opinions, and I don't know what the latest NACTO guidance say on this.
What is next?
The standard, it's like standards for. Go search it online at home tonight and then start studying the.
I know NETCD, but not next.
No.
And again, the plans were prepared by, for the microservices by AIM Engineering, they did Jardine. She's a traffic engineer, they're what call it experts, so they know how the striping is, so, they wouldn't put anything that's not standard. The next one.
Basically, the Vs that you see there are speed bumps that's already out there. We're not taking those out. We're just trying to enhance it so that people are not caught off guard by putting enough warning signs prior to hitting that speed bump.
And you can, tell me all these plans, it's only striping, we haven't shown the signs and stuff like that, so that's the next thing we'll be adding is the signs, where they're. This is just the striping plans.
Some of these locations, the edge of the asphalt is drop off because the dirt itself has eroded. So we're actually going back and putting in some backing so that it's not just a sudden drop off on the edge of the road.
So. And go to Anita at the end of it, from Burke to Anita on the university, for the microservice. Any questions on those comments? We'll move on.
For the university.
Yeah,
I
from
have,
Burke to Anita.
I have no comments on university besides as a commissioner. I just want to take Mr. Wing's comments and enter them as a commissioner as well, because those were good comments.
We'll wait until the end. That's up to you.
Well, I mean, there's usually public comments at the end of this, but given the
Where
fact
the
that,
location, yeah.
location, Jim, would you like to speak now on behalf of the email that you shared with the commission? Or would you, or would you like to wait till the end?
Oh, you wanna wait till the end?
If I,
I like to hear what Steve has to say.
if I may, that's not great protocol, I understand what you're saying, but let's just make sure we're consistent in our protocol.
Sounds good. Your time will come, Jim. Thank you.
Come on.
On El Monte, we're trying to narrow the road as much as possible to try to slow people down. At the same time, we're trying to add bike lane out there. We are trying to put a 2-foot buffer as much as possible so that there's some separation between bicyclist and vehicle. The width of 10 feet is absolute minimum that we're allowed to go. Anything beyond that, it's a truck will not be able to traverse through that area. So
You typically reduce the speed limit when it goes down from, because the other one was like 11 feet, you typically reduce the speed limit when it goes down 10 feet.
typically the road itself start feeling narrower,
Right,
so a vehicle will tend to slow down.
right.
That's, at least that's the philosophy.
I understand, but do you actually put up speed limit signs that change that?
So I'm just trying to orient
Okay.
myself. Speaking of-
Yeah, yeah, take your
Yeah,
time.
please.
On the South El Monte.
Mhm.
From Cuesta to Clark. Is from Cuesta moving towards Mountain View,
Mhm.
correct?
Correct.
I think there's another area of concern. Which is west of the Cuesta intersection. Where the frontage road is. Right off of Foothill Expressway. Because of the school traffic there from both Covington and Pinewood. That both intersect. You know what, I may be talking about Magdalena and not El Monte.
Yeah.
Yeah, El Monte, I was gonna say.
No, I think it's El Monte. So if you're at Covington School and you're going north. It's El Monte, right? Right there,
Yeah.
Yes, so if you're leaving either Pinewood or Covington area and you're gonna enter into El Monte. Wait a minute.
There, if I may, or may I
Yeah.
just share?
I'm, you know what, forget what I'm saying. Just gonna park that. I apologize.
No,
Steve is gonna present a map.
okay, so here is El Monte.
A segment of El Monte.
Yeah, we're basically
Yeah,
going
so
up to
where
here.
is Covington?
It's down there. It's
Yeah.
more of the south side.
Yes, down here. Hawthorne. Oh, Covington is more to the.
It's
close
close
to
to the express.
More of the south,
Yeah, right
more
here.
of the south.
Yeah,
South
so,
is west, yeah.
so that area between that, where that frontage road comes in. And Cuesta comes in
Mhm.
down to
Questions here?
between Cuesta, the frontage road, Cuesta, and then the next one down is that, right, is that San Luis
Yes.
or Hawthorne?
This is the next street after Cuesta.
Anyway, that whole area, there's lots of kids on bikes and pedestrians and cars all merging at the same time. So I think that whatever you're doing there to enhance those crosswalks, is really a good thing.
Is the Green Road indicative of the resurfacing remelling that we're doing, or does that just happen to be?
It's not part of the, I think we're starting from Cuesta
Yeah,
going
we're,
north.
yeah. we're
It's from
starting from
Cuesta
north,
to Clark.
which is up here.
Are Stephen's concerns addressed in our plans for 2020, 24, 25, or is this just a
No.
Stephen's concern?
I think we should definitely look at it, if we're not addressing it here in the following year, is the area that is the other section between Cuesta and. School.
I have some comments on Stephen's presentation when we're ready to come back to that.
I think unless your computer is functioning well, Stephen, Art, if you don't mind driving again.
You want me to share it, Stephen?
Go for it.
Yeah,
You wanna-
we can try yours.
You want to share yours? Yeah.
No, you're doing a great job.
Okay.
Keep it up.
So Commissioner Safety?
So I want to talk about this intersection of Belmonte and Cuesta. Okay. I have objection to when we remove the bike lane at the busiest part of the street, like right by the intersection.
Are you talking about
Yeah,
this
right here.
image here?
I don't know.
Yeah, that image right there. So I guess my question is, why are we removing the bike lane before the intersection? Because A, the road seems amply wide. B, you've prioritized cars because you've given them 3 different lanes. And I think unless there's some reason that I don't know, the bike lane should go right up to the intersection and you need to make some other plan for the vehicles. That's my first thing. And that's where the side of the road we put the sharrows, and the other side of the road at the intersection, on the bottom part of the picture, you still have a bike lane, but you don't have the buffer. The buffer starts later down the street,
You mean
but it's really at the
Here?
intersection.
here?
The top picture,
Yeah.
but the bottom part, yeah, where the mouse is, yeah.
It's too narrow.
It's only too narrow to put a buffer there because you've made 3 vehicle lanes on the top part. You take out one of those vehicle lanes, you can have a bike lane to the intersection and a buffer on the other side. So you've prioritized the vehicles over the bikes. And then,
Stacey, with that comment, do you have a recommendation on how you would modify? the
well, I
existing
mean,
lanes?
these guys can come up with exactly how they wanna do it. I think my proposal was to take at least one of those vehicle lanes on those 3 on you have 3 in the top where you can go right, straight, left.
Yep.
Take one of those out of there and prioritize the bikes, like figure out which vehicle thing wants to do, because yeah, because those turn lanes, they're not very long, so I'm just not sure what we're trying to achieve here besides.
Isn't that
cars
right
and
lane a
traffic.
shared line with the,
So does
The
And
shared
then, and then those
shared lane.
turning cars
so that's
are
kind of the
gonna
same
be
thing.
wanting to turn over the pedestrians and.
Are
Just
those
leave it that
actually
way.
3 lanes, or is that just describing?
No,
You have-
they're
you
at
have-
That's the existing conditions.
If I
Right
may,
now, that is 3 lane.
Sure.
Is that the way it's marked right now?
yes, if I may, commissioners. You only technically have 1 through lane in that location. You have 1 left turn and 1 dedicated right turn. Now, Monty does get backed up. Based on my measurement right now, the lanes are already minimum, which is 11 feet. So if you would like to add bike lane, we would have to get rid of one of those lanes to allow it to go through, or it has to be a share.
It's already Cheryl, right?
I want,
Yeah,
my
I think-
ask
I
is
think that
can
should
you
be fine,
look
is
at
having it
removing
shared.
one of those lanes to make a bike lane?
If I may, could we have one of the commissioners talking one day?
Well, I just think that it's already shared. You might as well just leave it that way. Where you get the best of both worlds.
I don't think the bicyclist has the best of the world.
Well, then you lose vehicle traffic and there's no vehicle probably every motorcycles.
I don't
Right.
think,
I'm gonna pause you.
Yeah.
Stacey.
The problem with sharing here is that the right turn is sharing with bike traffic going straight. Okay, and with bicyclists, it's terrifying.
yeah,
What we would have to do is we'd have to put a bike lane between the through and the right turn to ensure that when you make that right turn, you don't have a conflict movement. Just like how you see in Elmont.
and then should there also be some green paint at this intersection? That's a question more for the users who bike through there a lot. My gut says on El Monte, yes. El Monte and Cuesta, that sounds like a pretty good place for some green paint.
For a point of clarification on that, I'm not seeing painting recommendations based off of the initial image, based off this blueprint, so my hypothesis or my assumption is that there will be paint associated with a lot of these places, or the bike lanes like we're seeing in other parts of the city. Is that a true statement, or is it as we see it currently, just the
let me get back to you on that. Okay.
So can I ask a clarifying question? My understanding of these maps, how we've used them in the past, is the grayed out color at the bottom is current conditions,
Correct,
and the black colors on the top is the new proposal.
correct.
So there is no green paint on this proposal today. And I wouldn't expect it there unless it shows up on the design map. It's not gonna show up on the street unless it shows up on here. Unless you guys aren't following, unless you're installing something that isn't in the design.
No, that's,
Wasted land.
so. So am I hearing this correctly? The commissioner would like us to go ahead and relook at this and basically look at the possibility of removing the right turn?
I never said the right turn. I want you to, my request is that you look at this and identify any possibilities or the best possibility to take a bike lane up to the intersection. You guys will have better judgment on what to do with the vehicles. And then on the ones on the top side and on the bottom side, see if you can take the buffer to the corner and then add some green paint. And then I actually, besides bikes, I have another question. Is there a sidewalk along here?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
also the school's right there too.
Stephen, did you have a
Chinese children's.
clarifying point to that?
Okay.
Because Stacy's coming.
Like I stated, the lanes already are 11 feet, they're minimum. So for me to go ahead and put a bike lane in, I have to remove one of those lanes.
see what the public says. And the school community.
Do we have form for that, Stacy? Here.
This is the forum, this is what
Okay.
Steven
I
said.
know if it's another
Yeah.
form or this is it.
Yeah, and unless you're, it's also, I mean, if you have relationships with the parent communities, that's also good. I don't know, I mean, I don't know what this does to all your vehicle motions, but those are not long queue lanes. So we're talking, what, how many cars can stack there? 2 cars?
You
3
can stack
cars?
More than that.
How many cars stack there?
So those are 66 feet, so that would be approximately 6 cars.
Yeah,
At least.
and when it backs up, it backs up.
The strapping is only 66 feet. You could actually stack more than that.
I think we have to fundamentally ask ourselves, like, a number of questions. Number one, like, are all modes equal? If so, they should all have a lane. That's the number one question. And then the second question is, are we prioritizing safe routes to school, bicyclists, pedestrian safety, right? Because it's taking out a bike lane at a busy intersection, like, that's really bad for the bike user. That does not honor what we've said in the complete streets master plan about comfort and safety and all those words that we have in that. Anyway, you guys will have to look at it and see the ramifications, and you can come back with the proposal and what are the ramifications and what are the drawbacks, but I have concerns when a bike lane disappears before a busy intersection.
There's a bike lane there now that's being removed.
No,
No, there's no.
there is no
at
bike
all.
lane.
Hear what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, the bike lane disappears before that intersection.
All right, if I may.
And the purpose of what we're doing,
You want me to-
the
you want me
reason
to-
the Complete Streets Commission has been working with staff on the paving and resurfacing plans is to make improvements to Complete Streets.
You're not saying
Yeah.
you're taking out the lane, you're saying that bike lane should continue.
That's what I'm proposing, is can the bike lane continue up to the intersection, number one? And then the one on the bottom, can it be buffered from the intersection?
This is what the commissioner is saying at this point in time. This is where the bike lane ends, and this just technically becomes just a lane where it's shared by everybody. So what she would like to see is a bike lane to go from here all the way to this intersection right here. And the lanes itself are all 11 foot wide, which is the minimum. So for me to go and put in a bike lane to go all the way through, that means I have to remove the right turn pocket to facilitate that.
For the left turn lane.
Well, the left turn lane, it's because the traffic signal is the way it is.
The right turn.
Yeah, right turns in.
Maybe you'd have to make the right turn.
There's
You have to make a right
traffic.
turn from the straight line, from the middle one.
So then it just means the people making a right turn just have to wait a little longer. They can't go jamming up to the intersection and not stop and fly around the corner.
To keep us moving, I guess the
Yeah.
request is, I think it's clear, and
Yeah.
then Stephen, if you wouldn't mind presenting with a proposal for alternative solution for this particular intersection. That includes bicycle safety as a key priority. Thank you. We still have like 40 slides left, so we may proceed in objections.
No.
Proceeding forward.
I think it is. It's good.
Hey, Chair,
Yes, Rush?
I just want to note that I have multiple comments on that particular intersection, and I'll be sending that to staff separately. I don't want to go through the details because specifically, one thing I want to make is one point I want to make, and I'll articulate that better with email, is for people coming down, traffic coming down El Monte from Foothill, making a right onto Cuesta, is a point that we should think about very carefully, because that turn is a pretty shallow turn. And a lot of the time those turns happen at high speed, both putting bicyclists who are traveling across Cuesta, across El Monte on Cuesta, in danger, especially right after that turn. And the second thing, the pedestrians that are crossing across El Monte on Cuesta are often are ignored. I've seen that both people making vehicles making left turn from Cuesta onto El Monte and people making right turn from El Monte onto Cuesta ignore pedestrians quite often. It's happened to me quite a bit. I frequent that intersection often, and anything to slow down that right turn, I think, is important. It's the same thing with the bicyclists. Although that particular route may not be on the safe routes to school map, that intersection is extremely highly trafficked by bicyclists and pedestrians. I think we should look at this intersection very carefully. I'm not sure if we are moving on to the intersections along El Monte on Hawthorne and Clark now, but are we going to go through those in detail now, or are we going on to the next item?
I think we're getting down to Monte, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
based off that. So likely, Suresh, we will get to it shortly.
Okay, so we're going to move down to El Monte, for the next intersections.
You moving eastbound, if I'm not mistaken, down to Monte.
We're heading north of the.
We'll go north.
Sorry, north. Okay.
Yeah.
Wrong.
And go
To
back.
disrupt.
Northeast, yes, thank you.
So Rush will have good feedback because I know he frequents that location, but just hearing what he says, maybe add to my proposal. I wonder if we should even look at a protected bike lane at that intersection. So those right turning cars can't even jam over there fast and turn. Okay, go on.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, go ahead. I'll wait for as we get to the next part of the intersections, other intersections.
Next one?
No.
Now we're helping. I think that's Commissioner Suresh.
Sorry, did you say something? I can't hear you well.
Right now at Hawthorne.
Okay. So the Hawthorne intersection, I think there's already been made. I think Commissioner Katz makes some comments about the intersection. I'm glad that you're looking at striping this intersection, but it's probably one of the highest trafficked intersections by high school students. There's a lot of high school students who go across on Hawthorne and also make left turns. I've seen in the mornings from El Monte onto Hawthorne on bicycles. And anything to do to improve visibility on the intersection for traffic, I think is important. So is there any new striping, anything in the striping plan that helps? I know that we did the bulb outs and the and the white, what do you call those, the white diagonal lines when we did the striping last time. Are there any enhancements to that, Stephen?
We're actually putting like an island to square up that intersection at Hawthorne. So that if you can, you see that the line that is kind of going out around the crosswalk. We're actually putting stripes and as well as putting delineators so that the cars, instead of trying to cut through, they actually have to come out and make a slower right turn.
Okay. And then is
So
there
we're
a
trying to slow
proposal?
them down and I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then is there a proposal to do a pedestrian sort of like a ramp on the let's see, on the other side?
We are replacing a ramp on, what is that, the northwest corner?
Northwest corner.
Here. On the screen. Down.
Yeah, so basically we are replacing that crosswalk, that ramp.
Okay. Okay, and is there an opportunity to make one of those crosswalk raised crosswalks? Since you're doing that anyways, is there an opportunity
To do what, if I may ask?
A raised crosswalk to slow
a
traffic,
raised crosswalk?
similar to the requests that were being made for downtown.
Let me talk to the fire department.
Yeah. So raised cross.
So Rush, to be clear, are you asking for raised crosswalks in all 4 crossings or in a particular?
Not all four, at least one of them, so there is a safe route for students to get across on Hawthorne. I'm pretty sure not all 4 is feasible and practical, but if there is both this intersection and the next one on Clark. On the Clark, I think you absolutely should consider a raised crosswalk. The commission had kind of raised this point when we did the design on the other side of El Monte. And I think you should revisit that. I know there were some points made, but boy, that intersection definitely can benefit from a raised crosswalk. So I'm just raising the point to see if there's a possibility to do a raised crosswalk on at least one of these crosswalks going across El Monte.
Heard, we hear you, Suresh, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this section? Next slide, section.
That's the end of all the microservices.
So just, I know I asked this once already, but just to confirm, there's a sidewalk down the entire stretch of El Monte that you're doing this project on.
I don't remember if there's a whole length, there's a portion of it.
So maybe that's my ask, is then go back and check. And then for any stretches that don't have a sidewalk, think about where's the pedestrian gonna walk in your plans.
On the south side, at least
Where is that?
north of West, the sidewalk ends very quickly. And so you're gonna end up walking in the bike lane.
Is there a shoulder at all?
Yeah,
That's.
Shoulder bike lane,
I mean, is there a portion between the residential house and like a dirt path, like
Yeah.
most places have that would be a sidewalk, but there's walkable? I'm happy to have a look at it. I'm just curious the
yeah,
standard for Los Altos.
Exactly.
I also have a beef with it personally, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, but as long as as long as there's a place to walk, I'm not sure on El Monte, some streets don't have a place, so
There is,
just go check, I think.
there is a shoulder next to the bike lane that allows pedestrians to walk all the way.
And Stacy, for clarification, if there wasn't a place for them, are you making a recommendation?
Well, first I want to identify where it is, and then I think staff can look at it and they can bring back a proposal, but then I would start looking at that street and see what the measurements are and stuff like that, but they can check that out, yeah.
No, I'm looking at Google Earth right now. There is a shoulder or a sidewalk right next to the bike lane.
It is pretty wide.
yeah, it's enough.
Yeah, I'm not one of the wider ones.
So those are the first 20 slides. Are there additional slides?
So those were the microsurfacing.
That
And
was
that was,
portion A.
yeah, and our consultant AIM Engineering did that part. Second part is gonna be the mill and overlay, which is, Sandbell, did that design. So are we ready to do that? Go to the next.
If you don't mind going to my PowerPoint.
We're switching to the other document now.
Yeah, we're moving on to section B
Well,
of the discussion items, which is mill and
Uh,
overlay.
Steven has a PowerPoint first. He wants to, which page, Steven? Nope, it's gonna be the middle overlay. You wanna? Go to this one now?
Yeah. Just kind of want to give to the commissioner a general idea of what the complete street master plan shows. It shows that Springer does have a bike lane. It's asking for enhanced crosswalks because it is a safe route to school at several locations in this area, especially at Berry. So what we have done is we're trying to place a 5-foot wide bike lane with a 2-foot buffer throughout the whole length of Springer. We do have a bottleneck that we are trying to address to try to remove that bottleneck so that we have the bike lane going all the way through. What you see right there is going northbound. So the layout that you see on the right is the design by the consultants. What we're doing is we're going ahead and bringing a bike lane in all the way from Foothill to Berry. There is a gap between the right turn pocket so that people could make a right turn on Berry. And then there is a portion that has to merge, and then there's a bike through lane, as you see there. One of the things that we're gonna be one of the things that we will be doing is at this location right here, we're putting delineators so that the cars cannot go right and try to change lane into a through lane, like I've seen numerous cars doing. By doing that, it allows the bicyclist who's going through to be safer. So it forces the driver to commit. They have to make a right turn and come back in another place and make that right turn out. So we're putting it, oh, I hate it when that happens. No, that's fine. So you can see that this is basically showing, just like in El Monte, this is showing a bike lane. Bicyclists could utilize this road. It goes into a through bike lane so that they could go ahead and go through. While this one, a car could come and emerge, make a right turn. At this location is here is where they have to basically commit to whether they want to go through or make a right turn.
So where did the delineators start?
Right about here. In this general area. So it forces them to make that commitment. If they are in the wrong lane, you have to make a right. You cannot cut through. So this is a way of trying to protect the bicyclists to go through the intersection, especially since Berry does get congested with school there.
That seems really strange. I would have expected the delineators to start where the bike lane, exclusive bike lane starts.
Further back,
You wanna go back?
Further up.
further up. The reason why it is further back is we're trying to reduce the conflict movement between the bicyclist and a vehicle.
I understand, but the hashed area is where you're expecting the conflict resolved, right?
Correct. So let me see. Demo median. I would have to look at the notes. But definitely from this point on is, actually, you're right. You're right.
Thank you.
This is where the pylon starts, right about here.
Okay.
So it forces people who's on this lane to make that right turn. They cannot move back in because this is going to be a protected area for bicyclists.
An interesting intersection, it always has been. I don't know what the standards are, and I know some engineers have done these drawings, I don't know which agency did these ones, but not, yeah, not everybody's on top of those new NACDO standards. So I don't know. I think my biggest concern would be, are we gonna confuse one of those elementary school kids going to Barry? Making it safer for them is important, but are they gonna get confused in this? Not really, because they have to turn right today, so that barrier is there. I'm talking out loud.
Questions?
We could go back to it.
It's just a weird intersection. I
It
don't
is,
think I
it
can do
is,
it.
it is, we all know that. It's a weird,
Yeah.
yeah. Next one, Steve?
Yeah. So this kind of shows you what the master plan shows, the bicycle lane to go continue through. So going to the next one. It kind of shows that we are continuing to put a bicycle lane there with a 2-foot buffer. We are not putting any delineators out there because the residents along this area does park out in the street. And there is enough width out there to allow them to park out in the street. So, next one. This one, Covington. The Covington one, we're trying to square it out more. As you can tell with additional striping in this area. It squares it out more. We are continuing with a more high visibility paint for the crosswalk because this is a State Rock school. It will be painted yellow because we are in close proximity to the school. The bike lane continues on. Next one. And then it comes to an end. It transitioned into the existing bike lane out there. And that's where we're going to be probably picking up again next year. So we are putting in the 5-foot and a 2-foot buffer per the complete street master plan.
Question or yes, comment based off of Stacy's prior comments. These drawings have the Sharrow with a bike and an arrow. The other ones have a different Sharrow indicator. So will one part of the city have one design style choice and the other part of the city have another design style choice?
We could put in the green paint.
That's, oh no, well, even like the bike and the arrow, is that like is this it's nice to have uniform signs throughout the city. Is this something that, like, if we agree to this is exactly what this will look like? And the other
Typically, when you
plans-
have a Sharrow like, when you see a Sharrow, you'll see the other style without the green paint. Again, there's nothing that says you have to have the green paint.
Of course.
So it's just an enhancement. So if the commissioner would like to see it, I have no preference.
Well, my preference is like having some standard in the city, right? So we're looking at these, whether you're driving on Springer or East Portola near my home or University, right? That
Typically, you see the green paint and dedicated bike lane to clearly denote that this is a bike lane.
hence what these are. Okay, I see. Versus a
And you
Sharrow.
can see the intersection there,
I
what you
see,
see.
I'm mixing them up a little bit, but
Yeah, but I agree with you that it would be nice to have one kind of standard throughout the city, but we've never done that before. The other thing that I would just say is, I don't know, we should think about, we should, one standard is good, but the question is there one Sharrow? Or is there two kind of Sharrows for different uses? Cause I think sometimes those rectangle ones stand out a little more. Sometimes they may not be needed, so I just put it out there. So I support standardization. The question is, are we having one standard Sharrow or two kinds of standard Sharrows depending on the situation? I don't have the answer.
Go on to the next one. Before I go on to new council, anybody have any comments about Springer?
You want me to go back to our plan?
Well, let's see.
Got a quick question.
Fresh first and then Stacy can go next.
Sorry, Stacy, go ahead.
Oh, you go for that. I already go.
Oh, okay, sorry. I had just a question on the intersection of Covington and Springer. all the changes just striping only, or is any new construction or design changes proposed?
Mostly it's all striping.
No, all striping and the cross and the, trying to sort of square out the crosswalks. What's the, it's not clear what the plan for is that area, to the, let's see, southwest corner. Is there gonna be hash marks there, or is it just going to be kind of, and there's no paint and I don't know, sort of no, is there just gonna be left open?
It's gonna have a delineator on the perimeter, so, but I mean, if you'd like to see a hash mark, that's fine too.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. And then on the Berry, the Berry corner, is there anything that we can do to improve visibility of vehicles turning onto Springer from Berry, coming from the school?
Can you repeat that again for me, please?
So the corner, turning from Berry onto onto Springer, towards Foothill. Yeah, that's kind of a blind corner, especially, I see there's a lot of conflict between people going through on Springer and then people stopping and then making a left turn from Berry onto Springer, going towards Foothill.
So you're talking about the side visibility?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The intersection itself is already a four-way stop.
Yeah.
So they should be stopping, and when they get to that location, they should be able to see that there is a traffic coming onto them.
But when you stop on going south on Springer, when you stop, it's hard to see traffic waiting on Berry, trying to turn left, coming from the school. And I see, what's that?
You're already stopping, it's a four-way
You're
stop.
you're stopping, but you don't know if there's a car stopped on the other side.
I think his point is is there setback on Berry, right, versus equal to the road itself, so the car is potentially hidden from line of sight. I think that's the point you're making, Suresh.
Correct.
We have been notifying the residents at that location to prune back their vegetation to provide as much visibility as possible.
Yeah, and I would, I would try to take a look at that again because there's still an issue there.
Yeah.
And see, maybe you have to cut back on the vegetation more.
Is there a reason this crosswalk isn't parallel, like more square versus rectangular, to Suresh's point?
I think it's just the way
The geometry.
it's just the geometry of the roadway.
Suresh, anything else on this section?
That'll be it. That'll be it. Thank you.
Commissioner Stacy?
Thank you. I have some feedback. I have not the presentation, I have the design documents open, so I'm looking at the first page of the Springer ones.
First page of the Springer.
Yeah, so I have a lot of questions, and maybe I don't need to go into every detail on it, but I have a lot of questions about widths of parking, of bike lanes, of other things.
I guess the page you're referencing.
Before you do that, I have one question. I'm very.
Yeah,
Before
yeah.
we switch subjects.
Please.
When I look at the plans on the Berry one, it talks about getting rid of the concrete island that's currently there. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the logic of getting rid of the concrete?
It really doesn't serve any purpose. It's not a refuge. And we're trying that with the island that is out there, it's about 7 foot wide. It's not a refuge. And we're trying to put a bike lane through that area. Without removing that island, we cannot put a 5 foot wide bike lane and a 2 foot buffer because it becomes a bottleneck. And at most we could do is what is already out there, which is only about 2.5, 3 feet wide.
Thank you.
So I'm on the first page of the attachment on Springer. And I'm
With the foothill, with the foothill, the Springer.
page 26, it looks like that's what my PDF says. So when I look at the measurements, I see 12 feet, which is presumably a parking, 5 feet, which is bike lane, 2.5 feet, which is a buffer, 10.5 feet is a vehicle travel lane. Are you guys on the same one
Are
now?
we at Covington Springer?
No,
which
the
one?
first goal, it's
It'll
the
be at
first Springer.
Foothill. It'll be
There,
Foothill.
that's probably it.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh.
You
That's
see the
it.
measurements right down the center of the street?
Let me-
So I think what and maybe there's a rhyme and reason here, but I see that the parking is a little wider in the one spot and narrower on one part, but I guess my question is, if we have 12 feet of parking, why is there only a 5 feet bike lane? Because we should make a narrower parking spot and a wider bike lane, so the bike lane is inclusive of a door zone.
The area that you're talking about right there is a frontage. That's where all the improvements are at. So those are the areas the residents are already parking out in the street. So we're already putting in a buffer between,
Reference the,
That 12 feet.
that's
isn't
12
that-
feet.
Okay.
So there's,
Isn't that the parking spot?
yes, this is where the cars are already parking with the
Yeah.
improvements along this area right here.
Yeah, so maybe we're crossing each other, but what I'm not understanding is, isn't there space to make the bike lane 8 feet or something like that, so the bike lane is inclusive of a door zone? Because the parking is 12 feet, you don't need 12 feet for parking.
You need 9 feet for parking, but the whole thing is, if you're concerned about the doors opening, the cars are parking close to this end of the 12. So there's still gonna be some buffer, about 3 foot buffer before you get into a bike lane. The cars are actually parking along this area right
But is
here.
that guaranteed? Because I don't know about this exact spot, but sometimes when I go on Springer, sometimes the roads are really wide and people park in different spots and then there isn't always clarity. That's kind of my thing, like. I think the ask is. Where we have space. Can we make a wider bike lane? So it's inclusive of a door zone, not a separate door zone, because I think wide bike lanes are better. So it's inclusive of a door zone instead of. Expansively wide parking.
I could look into that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, like
I
why
understand what
are,
you're saying, but the other comment that you made a few minutes ago is you want to standardize it.
no, that was for bike,
Because at this point in time, I'm gonna be widening some of the bike lanes, narrowing it to 5,
So-
going back and forth on width.
so hold on, my comment for standardization was on bike boulevard, the stencils for the bike routes. The comment on bike lanes, I am never gonna tell you to standardize it in this city, because a lot of our roads don't have enough width for what is desirable. But for the streets that have enough width for what is desirable, we should put in what's desirable. And what's desirable is a 2.5 or 3 feet buffer, an 8 feet bike lane. So it's inclusive of a door zone, and then parking if we have space. And a 10.5 foot, whatever travel lane, so we keep the vehicle speeds down. That's what's desirable, and I think we should put that desirable thing in wherever we can in the city. The streets that don't have space, then we're all gonna have to compromise and not follow some.
A lot of those locations that you're talking about already has a curb out there.
Okay, so there's a curve,
There is a curb.
alright.
So we're trying to squeeze a 5-foot bike lane and at the same time try to maximize to allow these residents to continue having this off-street parking at this
Yeah,
location.
so I wish Suzanne Ambien was still on this commission. Because she would be telling you right now that that's public property and that it's not private parking spaces for the residents who live there. And that we should be maximizing the community good for all the modes of travel that can go through here. So I think my ask into a nutshell is, I don't know where all the curbs are and where all the things are, but the ask is, are there places on Springer and Almonte for that matter, because these are two very wide roads in the city, that we can have wider bike lanes so they're inclusive of a door zone? Because when we make safe routes to school routes, like, you don't want little kids biking in a small bike lane with car doors hitting into them, no adults like that either. So where we have that space, I'm just saying, can we take another look?
You said you had a few other comments, are you?
Oh, yeah.
Completed or?
Yeah, I think when I look at my other comments, I had similar comments. This was the first one, but I had other, I don't need to go into all the details. I had other sheets that were like, in one spot, the vehicle travel lane is 10.5 feet, not 10, when the bike buffer has 1.5 feet. Like, why are we doing 10.5 in a vehicle lane and 1.5 in a buffer? Like, I think Stephen can just go,
10.5 is, the 10 is the absolute minimum.
yeah,
So you don't want to be in that zone. You want to provide a little bit of lane width. Because some of these trucks, especially box trucks, are a little bit wider. And if you create that situation, the cars are already going to go into the bike lanes. So you're causing a safety issue at that point in time.
so I'm not gonna say it never happens, but I am gonna argue with you here because on Homestead Road, like they've made those lanes pretty narrow. And I don't see cars going in that bike lane a lot because the bikers in that bike lane, so people kind of stay to their lanes. But specifically, the place I'm talking about is 22 feet on the side. So it has a 10.5 vehicle lane.
Where you're looking,
I
where,
don't know, I don't know, but I didn't know the page. It's on Springer.
You go to the.
There's like 10.5 vehicle
Right there.
lane, a 1.5 buffer, a 5 feet bike lane, and a 22 feet shoulder space.
yeah, you pass it. All right.
That one, right? Is that it?
Yeah, that should looking at that 22 feet. More, yeah, you're looking at an area where there's a right turn coming in.
That's a right turn?
There is a road. Scroll to the right a little bit, right there.
Yeah, this is-
Here is a road right here.
Oh, did
So
I
we're trying to
miss
get the
that?
road, we're
Oh,
trying to
you
get the car.
measured, is that the 22 feet spot?
Yeah, that's what extra white's are.
Okay, I must have missed that, because I saw it 22 feet. All right. Now my big important one. Flashing red light neons important. Go to Fremont Avenue,
This is a
Springer.
page number.
Springer, I don't know,
In
scroll
the
down.
lower right corner, there says. C-
Yeah, I don't
C
have it in
number.
front of me. I don't have it in front of me. It's probably the last one,
Okay.
because we started at the first one and Fremont would be the last one, so the last Springer page. So my machine loads it really slow, so.
So we're Covington. Edge Lane, Berry. And that's, so going the other way, that was it. We'll go back, you want me to go back?
No, that's Fremont.
That's Fremont, right? So we go back. That's Berry. And then this is going north now, right? Covington.
Thought we wanted to talk about.
Oh, you want to talk about Fremont? Is that-
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that, sorry. There. That's Fremont.
Is this the page you're speaking of? Okay.
Yeah.
Any comment? Comments?
What happened to the bike lane at the busiest intersection of everything we're reviewing tonight? Maybe except Foothill and the other one, but that has traffic flow. So this is a busy intersection.
It's a crazy intersection. You were right in the first place.
It's a busy intersection. And as a bicyclist here, it's a very difficult, it can be a very difficult intersection. It's also a school route. And I don't know, like, where do you bike? So so my ask now is, can you go back and relook at your designs and find a green marked place for bicycles through this intersection?
We have already been in talks with the county on this one. We're actually talked about possibly dropping through lane on Magdalena to allow for a bike lane to go through. According to the county, for us to go ahead and utilize this to put a bike lane like you're talking about, we have to redo the traffic signal because the traffic signal is going to be misaligned. The controllers are relatively old. So for us to go ahead and start putting in a bike lane, I mean, there isn't a bike lane out there right now. There is a fog line. So for us to go ahead and look at a bike lane, because I actually did look into that, we would have to redo this whole intersection. And right now the estimate is about $5 to $6 million. Because we would have to go ahead and redo not only the intersections, but all the traffic signals and all the infrastructures.
Got it. So let's put it on the to-do list. And then let's try to put it on the county's to-do list.
And that's what we were talking about.
So what did they say?
Oh, it's just.
They basically said they'll look into it.
They'll look into it. Good, they're gonna look into it. That's better than a no, so we'll take that and we'll work with it. Because this is a really important, it's an important intersection. Yeah.
All right, if I may.
You want me to stop this?
Yeah.
I would love to see some green paint from southbound Springer just before Foothill there, because that's a little bit messy getting to straight through.
Right now, the area, okay, so right now, the merge lane is going on past this intersection. So now you have to drop a lane soon as you pass the intersection, so there's a lot of conflict movement at this location.
I'm talking about the other side.
No, bear with me for a minute, Commissioner. So the thought was to try to create a bike lane, come through this area right here to make this area a lot safer for bicyclists to go through. For us to do that, we would have to drop this second lane.
Understood.
So we would have to transition at this location right here to allow the traffic to stack and transition through this intersection, make a left if need be. This location right here, the second lane would have been a bike lane. But the challenge now becomes is, if you go to this location here, the system itself is relatively old. So right now, the last upgrade they made about 15 years ago, they're basically saying they don't want to touch it unless we're going to redo this whole intersection. The alignment of these traffic signal heads would be misaligned. And we would have to go ahead and not only upgrade this mast pole, but at the same time, the sides and all this, the phasing would have to be totally remodified. So like I said, it's about a $6 million to redo this whole intersection. Go ahead and put in a bike lane. And this is a discussion we have had, and the cost at this point in time is prohibitive.
I don't know the cost, but they just, there's hope, because the county redid it at Foothill and Arboretum, whole new traffic, mass, single timing, everything.
Yes, sir.
So I'm talking about the other side of the street,
Mhm.
coming southbound, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And as you pass coming out of the parking lot there,
This
this
one?
no, farther down,
This way?
no,
Or am I?
on the street, if you're going southbound on Springer,
Mhm.
right, you cross through the intersection, and then this entire area is a giant conflict zone. People wanting to turn right on Foothill. If a bicyclist is trying to go straight across Foothill, this is just a mess.
I agree.
Love some green paint. I'm not asking for a design change and I'm not asking for a bike lane, just.
You're just asking
Yeah,
for
so
the
that's
section.
good. I support that. Take that ask back and see if you guys can come up, while we wait for the $5 million project, is there some paint solution that can be done in the interim?
You've got a little bit of a bike lane right before the light. But back where people are coming out of Andronicos, it's a mess.
We were looking for.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I'll just re-emphasize how important this intersection is. If you want Southwest to bike to downtown and you want it family friendly where people don't go on the expressway, and I know that there's big plans for the expressway, but that's gonna be a lot of years before we actually get the money to implement that. This is the way people go. You go to Fremont Avenue, and then once you hit this intersection, it's like, you know. And then I bike into the parking lot at the grocery store, but in and out of that parking lot is not even fun. And then from here, it's like, you can bike through the parking lot and get back on Fremont Avenue and then make it over to El Monte and Covington. But this is really key to getting through town. And getting those little corners too, for that matter, yeah.
So we have to work
Okay.
to get some of this.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christian, Tony, did you have anything else or did you make your point at the green?
I'm done.
Regarding the image here, I was just pointed out that the area at the intersection where it looks like it's more recent asphalt, that's county road. And so we as a city need to work with the county to have them manage that piece where the proposed plans for the milling and overlay or up to the point of the intersection, I guess, that we are working towards, so.
Understood.
Yeah.
Anything we can do up through our point.
For sure.
would Be most welcome.
Sorry, I said I was done and I'm not. I know we were looking at the images now, so I should actually look and see what's on the actual drawings. Are you gonna make that a piano key crosswalk to cross into the shopping complex? From,
I think that's
from
what
the
shows- I think
Fremont
that's what
sign
shows-
road?
Yeah.
that'll
That's what shows on the
actually,
plan.
okay, if that's on there, that'll actually help a lot for pedestrians.
Can you stop sharing, please?
Over there.
Oh, yeah, it is. I found
It
it.
is, right?
It is.
Oh, there it is, okay.
Yeah.
You see it?
Yeah, that'll actually be an improvement.
Are you still taking control?
He's taking notes.
No, do you want, are you still showing your screen or no?
No.
Okay,
No,
alright,
did I get up?
so,
No.
is Suresh have any?
Suresh, any
Make sure
comments?
that he would call, he's included in this. Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, so what was the question?
Have any questions or comments?
No, I think my comments were similar to what has been addressed already, so I'll hold off.
Thank you.
Alright.
Moving on.
Moving on, what street are we going? This was kind of, the way they did the plans. You want me to show it, share your, slide again, Stephen? This is-
What
this is
do we
the-
have? That's all of Springer. So anybody have any other
Yeah.
further comments? No?
Move forward.
You want me to show your PowerPoint again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's. Yes.
One of the comments that was made by the commissioner a while back was on Newcastle, you would like to see. Because there's a safe route to school, you would like to see a bike lane, a dedicated 5-foot bike lane. Go into the. Are you showing your screen?
Oh, I share. Your, shared PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
And we see that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So as you can see. Go back.
there we go.
As you can see, that Newcastle is identified as a safe route to school with bike lane on it. Go to the next one. Right now, if you look at the dimension.
Let me blow it up.
Yeah, the dimension from curve face to curve face is 43 feet. Right now, they have narrowed this down as much as possible, which is 10 feet, which is not advisable. It should be about 10 and a half. So if they were to go ahead and put, assuming that we want to proceed with it, assuming that we allow this lane to be only 10 foot wide, we could only install a 4.5 foot wide bike lane and a parking of only 7 feet. So you're looking at several substandard layouts out at this location. Currently, what is showing out there is existing lane is 11 foot wide with, I believe it was about 9 foot wide, basically is a fog line, basically, that allows bicyclists to ride on the shoulder when there's no cars. And at the same time, it allows the residents to basically park out in the street. So I would not recommend a 5 foot, a dedicated bike lane. Let us put back what is currently out there, which is a fog line to allow for pedestrians to park in front of their homes. The speed on Newcastle, the volume on Newcastle is relatively low, except during commute time, which when people are trying to take kids out to school. So I don't see any harm by putting back what is currently out there.
Agreed.
So I have a comment. Number one, we should talk to the school community to see what they have to say about this, because they have wanted a bike lane and improvements on Newcastle. And there's a reason why it's in the Complete Streets Master Plan as identified for a bike lane. That's number one. Number two, can you bring back an option for removing parking? Can you bring back an option for removing parking on one side of the street? So if we remove parking on one side of the street, do we now have enough space for everything?
What side of the street?
I don't care.
And
That's
then
your
what
job.
about all these residents who use that as parking?
What about I mean, this is the thing. What are we prioritizing, right? What are we prioritizing?
If I lived on that street, I would.
I think it's, I can't say what Suzanne would say, but I think if Suzanne was here, she'd probably tell you to remove all parking. So I think the question is, what are we prioritizing as a city? And the Complete Streets Master Plan prioritized the bike lane.
The Complete Street Master Plan does not indicate a bike lane. It just says a bike route.
No, it's a bike route today. The master plan has a bike lane.
Can you go back to the one before that? Zoom in.
So
Zoom in.
Stephen, I have a comment. And it's not a comment as much as and perhaps it's a question as well as a comment. But I'm gonna talk to it about Newcastle, but it really has to deal with every area we talked about. What bothers me the most about tonight is a lack of participation among any of the community members. I mean, not for the people that are here tonight, but the fact that we have people that aren't here tonight. And remembering what we went through on Jardine, which was a little bit of I don't want to see an unforced error again. And I don't know how between now and when contracts are actually committed, we actually get to sufficient amount of people to get the kind of feedback and participation that would help us get it, have less chance of making a major mistake and having to redo things. That's my biggest concern. And I'm not looking for an answer here tonight. I'm just like people to think about that.
So I just wonder if you put out signs, like those sandwich board signs for any streets or anything.
What we're planning to do with all these streets here, we're gonna be sending out mailers
Okay,
to all of these, so.
all right.
Again, these are just public feedbacks, it's not the final plans, you know,
Okay.
so, you know, we are sending all these streets, notifications to all these residents. Not during construction, No.
Sorry, just to clarify, I thought I thought mailers were going out before tonight's meeting.
No, we wanted to have an initial
No.
discussion.
We're discussing, we have a proposed
So,
plan
yeah,
discussion.
but even so, I misunderstood that too. But even so you're proposing that this is the initial discussion, in 2 weeks' time, we're having a final discussion and you're sending the notices
No.
out?
We didn't say it was gonna be the
No,
final, that was proposed, but we were not saying. the next
So they
meeting is
said
gonna be
last
final.
meeting.
Oh, so
Yes.
what's the current timing plan?
At this point in time, we're probably not gonna get this construction until
Exactly.
probably about July, August,
That's what
because
you
of
said
all
last
the
month.
public outreach that we're trying to do. So this
Right.
was the initial
what you said last
blush
That's
of
what
what
you
is the
said last month.
commissioner's opinion about the
Agree with what
layout.
you guys are saying. It was just that.
As I
Like a
stated
public
earlier,
comment.
this is just a preliminary layout and design, is not the final, nor is it gonna be after this, we're going to construction.
That we understood, but I think we also were under the impression that the community outreach was starting before today's meeting, so we
No.
could start collecting community input. So then the plan then was to do today's meeting and then to have another Complete Streets meeting at the end of the month, and you guys were looking for our buy-in.
No,
At
we
that
don't,
point.
no,
Basically.
we are
So what's
asking you
the
for your
current plan?
comment, we're asking for your opinion of the design.
If I may, so in our last meeting we had in preparation for this, we had come to the conclusion that this would be a proposal drafted in advance by city staff. We would discuss it, provide our input, and then that would be taken into consideration, and then the residents of those locations would be notified by mailer. Or so they had then the opportunity to provide feedback and input in addition to. I don't know about timelines, I don't have a time schedule, but that was what we discussed, so we could avoid a past historical situation like Jardine and other locations.
Yeah.
Is that an accurate statement?
I
Yes.
think what my ask is, because I've asked it now and I'm not getting the answer I'm looking for, so maybe my ask for the next meeting is, could we have a slide with the schedule of what happens when, or what's proposed to happen when? That would really help. Like, when are we reaching out to the community? How many meetings are we having? What feedback are we collecting? When do you want to send it to bid? Because I think that would help everybody to understand what's going on.
Clear ask. Any questions on that, Steve?
No.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I guess for clarification, we have requested agenda going back to Newcastle.
Yeah, and then with the thing like Newcastle, when you're considering parking removal, like you go back to Sunnyvale, just going through the parking removal process for Homestead Road, when they only had it for part-time. They had part-time bike lanes, part-time parking. That's when you kind of go out and you say you should watch the recordings that they did. Where you go out and say, we want to have bike lanes, we're trying to accommodate bike lanes, and you do not say you're doing parking removal. And then you collect everybody's input and they'll ask you about parking removal, but you go watch how Sunnyvale did it. So it was a class act and they got parking removed. Because they took community feedback along the way, and even if everybody wasn't fully happy at the end of it, there was a process that brought people along. And then there was more people saying that, yeah, hey, I want bike lanes.
But to your point, Stacey, I'll be.
But if you
Your
show
ask
the
isn't-
maps.
Your ask isn't clear to me at least.
Yeah, so, okay, let me make it a little clearer.
Yeah.
And this is what I was trying to say the other night. So I've now requested, can we look at some other mock-ups for Newcastle? If you bring those mock-ups to a community meeting number 1, and you show parking removal, then everybody gets mad. But if you come to community meeting number 1 and say, hey, we're talking about plans for Newcastle, we want, there's a lot of people biking on here, we want to learn about people's needs and what you think. Then you're gonna get a different set of feedback and comments and maybe a different outcome. And a smoother process with the community along the way. Is that clear?
That's clear, but I think the notification is sent out to the public. Are there general messaging or is it specific to each street on modifications?
We're gonna make it specific to each street.
Yeah, and if you have plans, they will see plans and then you've done other thing. And so my other request, I can't ask, is go take a look, talk to Sunnyvale or go and take a look at their approach to removing part-time parking on Homestead Road. Because they did a smooth job of it. And here, I think you might have space for parking on one side, like you might be able to keep parking on one side and put in a bike lane. At least I'd like to see how to see some other options besides keep it as it is today.
Any questions on that, Stephen? Okay.
I have another comment at Newcastle. At the Grant intersection. Is that crosswalk gonna be a yellow high visibility one? Yellow. It needs to be, it really needs, that's a busy intersection. Where a mom pushing a stroller guy is.
What is the nearest school to that location?
Near a school,
We probably.
St. Simon.
No, probably Oak Elementary.
It's Montclair Elementary attendance area, Cupertino Middle, Homestead High. It's like, it's where everybody pours out of the neighborhood to either go towards Montclair or go down Grant Frontage Road to Homestead Road.
At Grant there, it's Oak Elementary and Mountain View High School, probably closer.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Newcastle and Grant.
I know, those schools are closer.
That's by Lucky's.
No.
Yes, it's by
It's
Lucky's.
It's by
close to Lucky's, but
No,
you're talking
Newcastle
Newcastle
is-
and Grant, you're talking about Foothill.
Newcastle is.
Newcastle and
is
Grant is-
closer to.
Newcastle.
Grant.
Stacy. Newcastle and Grant is blocked from my house, and you know where I live.
Yeah.
You're on the other side.
No.
Yes, it
Is
is.
this being
No.
shown on the screen, Commissioners?
You
Is
need
this the
to bring it
location
to
you're
map.
talking
because I'm not- are you at Newcastle and Grant?
Oh,
Frontage
sorry,
Road?
okay, okay, all
Yes,
right,
that's
all
the
right,
location.
my mistake. then. I'm
It's,
thinking of the. I'm submitting.
no worries. We can't all know every road in town.
You should.
I'm trying to.
Well, So
All right.
is that gonna be a
That's
yellow
what we're
crosswalk?
talking
High visibility, but a yellow?
It's gonna be
Yeah.
one high visibility.
about.
And then the next question I have on that intersection, is there anything we can do with curb extensions or anything to like shorten that crosswalk? Cause it's a,
Is there a risk associated with the length of the crosswalk now?
yeah,
Which would be?
well, cars, Grant frontage is kind of a straightaway and cars come really fast down there. And those intersections along Grant are long. And pedestrians walk on Grant frontage on the sidewalks. It's one of the few sidewalks in the south. And then a lot of people come up and down Newcastle. And so when cars come around that corner really fast, there's a lot of long intersections. I'll be a broken record when we do Grant frontage, because there's a lot of long intersections on Grant frontage with cars going really fast and they turn. So if there's anything we can do, I know we probably can't do big bulb outs, expensive stuff now, but if there's any other,
So your suggestion here is
Things
between
we can do.
the bike path and the curb to make that area shorter or smaller, so
no,
ultimately.
whatever these guys can do to make they know what I mean, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, they know what I mean.
Well, I'm trying to understand what you mean, I guess. That's a tough
Basically,
question.
is a pseudo bulb out. So what she's trying to do is she's trying to shorten the distance pedestrian has to walk across the intersection.
Make this shorter.
Bulb out, gotcha.
Another consideration of the same intersection, we've got a lot of people who come off the freeway, down Foothill. Are trying to get back into this neighborhood and go Grant onto Newcastle. It's a fairly fast right-hand turn. I don't know if there's anything we can do for traffic calming right there. That's an alternative to,
Which location?
Right.
same
spot.
intersection, Grant and Newcastle.
Would the bulb out curbs help with traffic? calming?
They'll help, yeah, that's what I'm trying to shorten the crossing so the pedestrians aren't in there so much. And if you can get the drivers not to have a turn radius that's tighter, then they have to slow down. They should
If
slow
there are other
down.
ways we could just slow the traffic rather than construction, that would also work.
It would be enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Did you have a?
Put all the signs in the world. They're not gonna listen.
Exactly, you can have the best design if you don't have enforcement, you're not designing it, you know.
I think we're gonna see.
Anything else in particular to Newcastle, yes?
I have for Newcastle, I have at the intersection of Holt.
What?
Yeah, Newcastle and Holt. So that intersection is the intersection that leads you to Grant Park Community Center. So it's kind of that's an important intersection.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'm kind of wondering, like, are we not gonna do any sidewalks there?
No, we're not gonna put any sidewalks.
Why not? Oh, not sidewalks, sorry, crosswalks.
Whole different thing. Let's keep going, Art, keep going. Art, keep going. No, it's the next sheet over.
It was next sheet over, that was it.
Right. there.
Yeah, like
We messed it up.
Newcastle and Holt, like that's the intersection to go to Grant Park Community
There,
Center.
it's right there.
So there's a lot of kids and stuff crossing.
It's
there.
just that intersection, right, on the left side.
There's already a crosswalk in front of the school, I mean, the community center.
I'm
So, yeah.
talking about in front of the.
No, I
community
understand
center.
that, but I'm just saying, there's already a crosswalk in front of the community center, so you're asking for a crosswalk at this
So about
location?
four,
Yeah, but how do you get to the community center? You go through this intersection. How do you walk through this intersection safely?
you walk on the street.
Yeah, there are no sidewalks.
We have no sidewalks.
Sorry. That's what we have to do, so let's out this way, you walk in the street.
Yes, I'm just asking for consideration of a crosswalk in
You
Grant and Holt. And I'm also wondering,
want 4 crosswalks or just 1?
you guys can take a look at it and come up with a recommendation. And then we'll see the school community, that the community would have good feedback here. This is on the opposite side of the expressway as me, but I do go over there and it's very absent of a crosswalk in that intersection. And then similarly, take a look at Newcastle and Morton as well to see if any crosswalks are needed. That's kind of a wider,
This
it's
one
like a
here?
big Morton.
Morton, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, this one.
yeah, that's kind of a Morton's a well-used road, so see if anything is needed there.
Is there, just to clarify, is there a reason there's not a crosswalk drawn into this because there's no sidewalks?
There's,
Residents don't want less striping.
That's why.
That's pretty much.
People like to walk in the middle of the road.
Exactly, you don't want any stripes, they put stripes out there, they're gonna say, what's all these blue
And-
stripes going?
And then
I'm telling you, that's gonna happen.
the other ask that I've heard from the elementary school community is there are also a few connector paths that intersect Newcastle. They just pop out of the neighborhoods. And people have asked, especially for one of them, because it connects into the back of Grant Park, not into the main front entrance, but in the back entrance. They've asked for like a sidewalk, mid-block sidewalk. So I'm not saying you have to have that. I'm saying, can you go take a look? Can you just take a look at where the connector paths connect to Newcastle? And then should there be any mid-block crosswalks, particularly in the back pedestrian exit to the Grant Park?
A clarification, you're asking on the northwest corner of Grant, where it comes out onto Newcastle, you're asking for a crosswalk.
No, I'm asking them to take a look at if they think it makes sense to have a mid-block crosswalk in the back pedestrian entry to Grant Park. Because there's also a neighborhood pedestrian connector over there that goes into the neighborhood and lots of people cross there. Without a crossing.
How's that different from what I said?
This is the location, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the location you're talking about.
Yeah.
Here's a grant, here is a crosswalk. Personally, I would not put a crosswalk here.
Somebody's right in front of somebody's house.
Well, not only that, but
Where's
I got
the
to, hold on, I got a curvature going through here. Not to mention, there is already an existing sidewalk, which would be a lot safer at this location for a pedestrian to walk on.
Right?
So given this convoluted of,
Oh, there's the that's the connector out of Grant.
yeah, so this is right at the curvature here. So you're gonna be in a situation where you're gonna have people going across the street to no sidewalk on the street. And so you would not be
On a blind
advised.
turn.
So I've heard what you've said. I will just also say that I've heard from the moms who live in this neighborhood that their kids walk across the street, they're out of crosswalks.
No, I understand that, but if I put a crosswalk there, then I'm condoning it. And it becomes a liability to the city. But if someone wants to take it upon themselves to do it, it's on them.
I don't think it's on them. I just put that on the record.
Okay.
All right, I've given the feedback that I've heard from the moms of the neighborhood with young kids. So the last comment that I have on Newcastle is at the Fremont Avenue intersection, and now coming over to you, Tom.
Everywhere there.
Yeah.
So when you get there, I'll start talking, but when you get there, Newcastle hits Fremont. There's a lot of people turning right to go onto Fremont to get to 85. They're in a hurry. When Foothill gets backed up, Newcastle becomes a cut-through street of the neighborhood, and people go really fast. The bike lane got a little lost right as you hit this intersection. So I think I'm asking the comments that I've made for a couple of the other streets. And this is the maps part, but then Art can also pull up the design part. Can we just somehow bring the bike lane to the intersection and have some green paint and think about the conflict of the bikes and a bunch of, because Newcastle doesn't go straight through to the other side, so you turn when you get here. And the majority of traffic is gonna turn right onto Fremont heading to 85. So there's a lot of conflict with bicyclists and pedestrians. So if you guys could think about how we can, in this resurfacing project, better manage some of that conflict so it's safer for bikes and pedestrians, I would love to see some proposal for that.
So we're not resurfacing Fremont here, right?
No, we're not.
We're resurfacing Newcastle.
Right. But the interesting part of the conflict is all on Fremont.
No. Article here, there's
Speed
conflict on
cameras.
Newcastle.
The issue you're calling out is that they bike.
It's
lanes
not that there
actually
isn't
include-
conflict on Fremont, but there also is conflict on Newcastle where we are.
The bike lane stops is what you're saying, or? Yeah. It's extended
What do
here.
you have there? Okay, you have green lines. Yeah, I think even though I saw this like this, just give a little more thought to this, because Newcastle's not going straight through. The cars are turning right or left. And there's a bunch of them turning right, and a lot of them are in a hurry, and pedestrians are here without a sidewalk. South, and I know the north doesn't have sidewalks either, but yeah, it's just cars are gonna be rushing right. And so just, if there's anything else you can do for pedestrians and bicyclists, I'm open for those proposals. Can think about it, you don't have to answer them.
That's a good idea. Anything else regarding Newcastle? Any commissioners? Suresh, do you have any comments? None, thank you.
Nope, thank you.
Does that bring us to the last
No, what streets?
street, or do we have another street?
Let me see the list here.
There's a couple more streets,
Yeah, there's
but a lot of those are,
just the small ones, right?
yeah, they're small roads, basically we're putting
So
back whatever's
if you
there.
look at the list here, what do you want to look at next?
Stonehaven,
And there's a section of university.
Yeah.
And you have
For-
Alicia,
for coverage.
Alicia.
All streets, maybe just go
Let's
top down.
let's just cover all the streets and tell me if we slow down. So let's just. So that was the first one was Alicia, right?
Mhm.
The school,
right there,
Lucio Wayne.
right next to Los Altos High School.
Jordan right there. And then goes all the way to Almond. Any comments? Feedback? Yes, yes, yes.
So on the Jardine Hardin
yeah,
corner.
yeah.
Are the black curb extenders, are they just paint? Or are there also physical barriers there?
At this point, I was just saying.
Yeah, you need some physical barriers there, I think. I've made my comment.
Is that it?
Oh, does anybody else have a comment
Sonia,
here?
do you have a
Yeah,
comment, question?
there's a little three-dimensional issue right here. There's, if you're turning from Garden onto Alicia, there's a pretty big bump there.
Yeah, there's a valley gutter.
And,
Big guy.
yeah, is there a way to smooth that a little bit?
It's a speed bump. with some people down.
There's a few of those in Los Altos, like where you.
For me to do that, I would have to kind of tear out the whole road and regrade the whole site.
That's a speed calm thing.
Okay.
There's a few of those in Los Altos.
Yeah.
Understand.
You gotta
I
slow down.
climbed out my car there.
Yeah, slow down, just slow down. Yeah.
Very slow, John.
Can I ask a quick question
Go
on
ahead.
Alicia?
Yeah.
On Alicia, on both sides,
Mhm.
both on the Jardine side and on the Almond Avenue side, are those yellow crosswalks, are they repainting what's already there or are they new?
They're gonna be on.
There is a crosswalk there, but it's the old white parallel lines. We're actually putting in a high
So we're
visibility yellow
changing
line.
it to the
Yeah.
Continental.
to the Continental. So we know what we went through on Valencia, right?
Mhm.
When we did that. So I think it's really important wherever that we make that change, that that those immediate neighbors get notified specifically about the change. Because they won't know if you just say we're changing, if you would just use label. So it's gotta be a way that it actually gets their attention.
I think I would just add though, if we're just changing one crosswalk from two white bars to piano keys, is what I call the continental ones, like that's a safety matter like by a school. That should be done.
Well, yeah, there's, I think, opinion between safety matter, visibility, formed, similar to changing.
Yeah,
bike
this is
lanes
also
and-
this, I think the state has some guidance around, it's near schools, you're supposed to have this.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we don't do it, I'm just
Yeah.
suggesting
Well,
that.
yeah, just notify
It's
the
just
residents.
important.
There's no, that's
Yeah,
what's
okay.
gonna happen. Yeah, we got you. Okay.
Then on Alicia and Almond, I think I have a similar comment as I did at the Hardin corner. Yeah,
Yeah, it's on there. It's on there.
is that the one that's up
Yeah,
there?
it's on the screen right now. Yeah.
So are those physical curbs there, or do you have
No.
curb extenders?
The existing is just a paint.
Right now it's a brown, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, there's a brown kind of
Yeah,
island there, right?
yeah. So are cars driving in that, are they?
Yeah, and that's why you see there's delineators gonna be placed there, right?
Oh, okay, so that's what the black dots are, delineate, that was my question, I was like, what are the, and have a whole bunch of dots on my
Yeah,
paper.
it's just in there, because they have that brown thing right now.
Okay. Okay, so you're putting physical barriers on this side, but on the Hardin side, you weren't proposing them, but I was suggesting that I think you need them. Okay.
Alright.
All right.
That's release you with.
Yeah.
Next street.
This is a small one. Report, I think it needs to be done, because there's a lot cracking up there. J Street. From Clark to El Monte. So. Comments on J Street? And everybody knows that there's a project, a Mountain View project, right, from Springer, from J Street all the way up to El Camino. Everybody knows that project, they're doing a road diet. And they're gonna, yeah, so basically it's gonna be a one, so it's on their webpage, if you wanna look at it, I think, the design, final design is gonna be by the end of the year, going to construction by next summer. That's our plan, so.
On El Monte.
No, is it, well, it becomes Springer,
Yeah.
Springer
But
to,
They,
Springer all the
they
way,
brought that to us a couple of years
Okay.
ago, I think.
yeah. So Springer, and that's gonna happen, so Springer up to, so, and that's where the, uh, the- 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 we good with Jade? No comments? Okay. Next one is Labor Court. This is near Montclair, your neighborhood.
Yeah, and this is what I asked for,
Okay.
is I kept asking you guys, when a street intersects a school route street, we need to think of the intersection, and that's what you've done here,
Are you
so,
good with that?
yeah.
All right. And kind of just, yeah. Labor Court. Small ones, Loma Prieta, that's good, you know, there's some drainage issue that's what needs to be done there. Newcastle, we just did. Shelby Lane's another one, there's some cracking, it was on last year's list, but we moved it this year because, we needed to do more investigation on that. And then, what about Springer? I think we're almost done. Stonehaven. Next one. That's right next to Montclair. Any comments?
Please.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
This is another,
That's not rocket.
I have a lot of comments, so similarly how I said there's neon flashing lights at Springer and Foothill intersection, I'm gonna say I have some neon flashing lights at this one too. So on Stonehaven, between the raised crosswalk by the tennis courts in Windermere, up to Sierra Ventura intersection,
Up to.
Sierra Ventura, so past Kent, so including Kent intersection and
Right.
up to Sierra
Sierra
Ventura.
Ventura, yeah.
That whole area
Mhm.
is it's a school route, because the kids can come out of Montclair by the tennis courts or Montclair Park and use that raised crosswalk or just go along the street there, and they can access Windermere and Sierra Ventura. That's how you get up to these neighborhoods. So there's nowhere for a pedestrian to walk in this area except the street. So my number one question for you is, given that, what is your plans for pedestrian safety here? And when I mean pedestrian safety, I mean kids coming from Montclair who may exit by the tennis courts at the raised crosswalk, or kids who may exit the back of Montclair at Kent and then come to the Kent intersection, but they'll usually come right at the raised crosswalk. How do they get up to Sierra Ventura? And that's the pedestrians. And then ditto for the bicyclists who say you live up on Sierra Ventura and you bike to Cupertino Middle School. I think you're adding Sherrills and stuff, but they have some issues too. Then there's a whole bunch of people who walk in this neighborhood, as all neighborhoods in Los Altos. But the intersection of Stonehaven and Kent and Stonehaven and Sierra Ventura are very dangerous.
Can you please define what you mean by very dangerous in what way?
Okay, I can do that. So, okay, so if I'm coming from, say, Foothill, there's multiple patches that are very dangerous, but if I'm coming from Foothill, I can walk along sidewalks or some tar path. There used to be some dirt, but that got covered. And get all the way to this raised crosswalk. But once I get to this raised crosswalk, then it gets a little dicey. So I don't feel safe continuing on the Montclair side of the road towards Kent or up to Sierra Ventura.
Yes, that's what I
So
meant.
I always cross on the raised crosswalk. And then I have to go along, and then cars kind of go fast and there's some visibility issues, but at least there's a raised crosswalk, but there's some kind of issues there. But then I have to go along the street. And I walk along the Windermere side of the road up to Sierra Ventura. So I find that a little bit dangerous, because what happens is, I think a lot of cars come down Kent, because all those hills feed down to Kent, and then they come, is there a stop sign at Kent? Is if there's a stop sign, they don't follow it, so it feels like there's no stop sign at Kent. And then they just turn right away, and pedestrians are kind of in the road. So if there's no stop sign at Kent, you could consider a stop sign, but there might be a stop sign and
There's no stop sign there.
yeah, so then you could consider a stop sign at Kent, how it intersects Stonehaven. Because cars just come flying around really fast. And you're in that little stretch from the raised crosswalk, between the raised crosswalk and Kent, like you're on the road.
As you can see from the proposal on the plans is that currently there's no edge line.
Yeah.
We are adding edge lines, which is a shoulder, and that's what.
Oh, so you're at, so the edge lines, I'm supposed to have space to walk in the edge
Exactly,
lines.
that's why there's an edge line there. Right now, there's no edge.
That's Los Altos sidewalk.
Exactly, it's the shoulder,
Okay,
so that's.
and then the other part that's hard is if you're walking along Stonehaven, Sierra Ventura is a hill, it's a huge hill. You get a lot of speed coming down that hill. Don't tell me I have a skateboard. And cars don't always stop at that stop sign and then they turn right. And if you're a pedestrian in that stretch, you have to like scramble out of the way. And then if you're a pedestrian on Kent and you're trying to turn onto Stonehaven and a car comes flying around Sierra Ventura, like it's kind of bad.
Yeah, again,
and
we've
then-
added edge lines.
Okay, so edge lines are good,
Yeah.
but the intersection of Sierra Ventura and Stonehaven and Kent and Stonehaven, they're really wide crossings. Did you add a crosswalk at Sierra Ventura?
No.
Yeah, you should maybe add a crosswalk there. That's, and it's just so wide. And I don't know if curb returns are gonna do anything for you there, cause it's kind of the Wild West, but a crosswalk might help. I walked through that intersection, and I walked through that intersection at night. Where Sierra Ventura hits Stonehaven, and then in the hills and back around, and then when you come on Kent, you're approaching Stonehaven, that's the same thing. Where do you, cause you have to walk, you have to walk either in the road and nobody hits you, like you're coming down Kent on one side, and then crossing that Kent intersection is scary because the cars coming up, they're on a curb and they don't really see you. And then if you stay on the Montclair side of the road and just pray to get to the raised crosswalk, because then you have the pathway.
It sounds,
Or you have to cross back over. You just need to look at this whole area. It's a bad spot for kids and neighborhood walkers.
sounds to me like we need to educate the public.
No. No, everything is not, yes, you need to educate the public, but I think we need to build roadways that are also safe.
Well, what I'm getting at is this, a lot of the things that you're talking about, blowing through the intersection, blowing through stop signs, those are drivers, who's not obeying the law. So by placing a crosswalk there, you're now in a situation where you're funneling pedestrian to go through that area, that driver's not gonna slow down.
The pedestrians are going through that area.
No, I
I'm
understand that.
trying to make it safer for
But
them.
just because you put a paint on the ground does not mean that it automatically makes someone safer.
So, okay, so Stephen, maybe you guys can look at this whole area and come up with proposals that will make it safer for the kids who walk and bike through there and adults who walk through there. Because that stretch is really dangerous. And if you need more information, I'm happy to give it to you or find people from the neighborhood who
Oh,
can
no,
tell you about their
Let's definitely look at the
experiences.
plans and see what they've added.
Yeah,
A lot of lines were added and then
Yeah,
edge, there's shoulders now.
I
That
looked
wasn't
at the,
shoulders before.
I looked at the plans and maybe they need to come to life, but I still felt like,
But there is shoulder, there's lines now. There wasn't, it was.
Anything you could do to help slow the traffic, I think, in these areas. 'Cause it again, is at the bottom of the hill, and certainly there are people who are.
Yes, some of the issues that I, and engineering deal with is driver's behavior that I need to modify.
All the way together.
But by placing additional signs, additional painting, it's not gonna modify people's attitude. It's actually part of the enforcement that needs to happen. And police and we talk on a regular basis.
but I think if the police were here, that they wouldn't say that it's all an enforcement job. And I think that it's while driver behavior is scary, I think these streets were designed to, like, these streets were not designed in a utopia, let's just say that, because you wouldn't feel so scared walking through there. If
But that is the Los Altos way though, no sidewalks, no streetlights, no lines, so.
Yeah, but some places I feel safer than others to walk, and so I think that we have to go back and think about the goals of the Complete Streets Master Plan. And the goals are not, that's the Los Altos way, and we need to educate the
But, you know,
drivers,
we
there's a
bring it
lot of
up,
other stuff.
you'll have residents on the other side saying, no, we don't want those lines, you don't want those streetlights, you don't want sidewalks. So,
Nobody's asking for a street light here, but I think.
but I'm just.
But I understand, but I think that's the whole, I wish, again, I'm calling on Suzanne Abio many times tonight, but like, she would say that's not an acceptable argument. Like, that we have to make the different modes of transportation in the city's day. And if there's,
We also have to consider the residents out there too, so that's a thing,
I am a resident
Well,
out there,
so.
We'll look into it.
thank you. And I think there's the other thing is you've talked about having people trim bushes in other parts of the city and stuff. It's like, what happened to if we don't have a sidewalk, what happened to the right of way? Because there's just nowhere to walk here. Like, you really have to be in the middle of the road from that raised crosswalk up to Sierra Ventura.
Are rumble strips part of our design area?
I would love to install some rumble strips, but the noise that is generated is not worth fighting the effort to put rumble strips.
It's inappropriate for these neighborhood streets.
Rumble strip does notify people that they're going too fast or they're going through and everything is so down. That's the reason why Caltrain uses it in their work zones.
Main Street.
I think that was it. Oh,
Actually,
university.
oh, yeah.
Oh, you wanna go
No,
back?
it's okay.
For sure?
Yeah, because,
Go back?
well, I don't think it'll work. It was probably a bad idea.
There's no such thing as a bad idea. What-
No, I sort of understand why you're not making a bike lane on Stonehaven along the Montclair side, because there's a lot of drop off, a lot of parking, a lot of things happening. There's no parking between the raised crosswalk and Sierra Ventura. Okay, I beat this one up enough. So it's like that actually has, you don't need all that side space. You need space for
Well,
pedestrians
that's why I
and
say
bikes.
it's for people to walk, right, out in the
Well-
street. Because right now, there's no line, this line does not exist currently. But we're putting this line so we have people walk on the shoulders. Like, think of jogging, you have a shoulder to walk on.
If we may, it's been a long night.
Exactly.
We've beat this
And you-
horse, dead horse plenty of times.
And you have people come.
I think you've understood my emphasis. This is a really important
Yeah,
area.
we got
Thank you.
Yeah, we got you.
Good.
Move on to university.
I think that's the last university. So from Edith. And this is the max, no, Mill and over. The other one was the,
Yeah, the Miller overlay.
yeah, so up to her. Any comments on that?
Pretty standard, it looks like. Across the
I'll just answer Jim Wing's comment in as a commissioner.
Okay.
But they were good comments.
I think that's it, right? Yeah, I think that was it, along the street.
That brings us to the end of Mike, mill and overlay. We've had all of our comments and questions as a commission. At this point, I'm like, we're going to the public for public comments. We have any comment cards you can hand to me? You're free to at this point. First up, Jim Wayne. Jim Wayne, what?
I'm excited to hear Jim's comment.
I know it's been a long night,
I
but
put,
given
I put
the,
as a packet, so it's in there, if you wanna go back. Jim's- yeah, Jim's-
I know it's been a long night, but given the amount of content we covered, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to speak on that, so you have. You get it done.
Control now.
I'll go much faster. First of all, for the record anyway, I'm Jim Wing, I live on Milverton Road. For 57 years. And thank you so much for selecting staff and you for selecting Main, state, and university streets. Because I walk them every day. And I know the dynamics, and most of the things in my letter are incidents I've had where cars tried to take me out. So therefore, I'm still standing, but they all are real. And I would make one suggestion for the Redberry crosswalk. The pedestrian signs that are used in that busy area, drivers don't see them, and that's why they get knocked over. Now, a prior traffic engineer, Cedric Navarro, has understood that problem because he got a lot of the poles knocked down. And so in Pleasanton, he's using K71s. And it's like hitting with a sledgehammer, right? Because people can see them. And if you ever go to Pleasanton, you will find out, drive it at night, perfect. Everybody sees it. You drive it in daytime, everybody can see it. K71s do work and highly recommended by the California Railroad. Talk about an older subject. This is the old CIP or the Milverton University gap fill project. There is an edge of a pavement problem that is there that Steve had mentioned when modified with the chamfer. Basically, Mike Ramon and I have talked about this, and he said that because of the edge of the pavement really needs to be protected. The SU-20 has that protection that he likes, that works. Also, he's got a reasonably high stormwater drainage on there that he has to take care of. And the SU-20 would take care of that down University, because remember that this street here is just not water from University, but it's water from Milverton. So it has a bit of volume there. And the taper really won't cover it that well. It'll work for a while, but it'll be destroyed after a while. The SU-20 has all of that built-in protection. Now, and also keep in mind, most of the pedestrians, Milverton is a pedestrian cut-through street. And where are we going? We're going to Redwood Grove. And it turns out that when you're coming back from Redwood Grove, crossing over to the sidewalk in Manresa with the curve is dangerous. And that's why we walk in the street. A police officer stopped me for walking in the street. And we had a discussion, and he agreed that there needs to be something done like the SU-20, like what you did on St. Joseph, for pedestrians to walk on, at least enough to get a stroller down, because strollers go in the street now. So therefore, it is a problem that hasn't been solved for many years. There has been a house sale, which actually it opens up the avenue to reclaim where the resident let the bushes go clear to the street. The developer's going to scrape the property and have a request into the zoning administrator to reclaim the right of way. And that right of way is 28.5 feet in there by the county plan maps in the center line of the street. So there is space. We just, the residents have taken over that space. University and Belmonte, the drawings show shifting the lanes in a curve. You're asking for trouble. That was done several years ago, and keep in mind, University is a foothill bypass, and the traffic volume is hard. And what traffic does, it comes down there about 40%, maybe. It has my count numbers have gone as high as maybe 40 to 50 in PM hour. Turn left onto El Monte to get back on the foothill, or then the other half basically turn right, and a small percentage go straight. So there is high volume there, and the Foothill Expressway change did help that, but it's still there. And the change in lanes here is going to cause tremendous backups. It's going to divert more traffic to Milverton. We've been there. So the only change that actually worked is to phase shift that signal line. And even on my walk tonight, there was an accident of one car going in one direction, one car the other, and head on, and one made the left turn. So it happens. There's normally about 3 to 5 accidents per year, police reported accidents, kind of by that oddball configuration. And phase shift, which is exactly what Foothill Expressway did in Maine and Edith and other intersections anyway, is the only true answer. It does require a pool. And when it was looked at before about 5 years ago, the control box did have the signals in it. So it may not be quite as severe.
At times.
I want to thank you so much for all the detail, taking the time to talk anyway, because the public input, because we know the dynamics, because we're on the streets, and that is the key to getting good designs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Mark Siddell here to speak about street resurfacing.
Hello, wonderful commissioners and staff. Really appreciate what you do. You're my heroes. My name is Mark Seidel. I live in Mountain View, but I own property in downtown Los Altos. And I live just right near the Springer School. So downtown Los Altos, I work, I recreate, my family lives here. It's really a core place to me. So let's see, I have a ton of comments about these. I've heard many of your comments and I appreciate them. I'll just speak to a few of the points that I think are most important to me. And I'm speaking as an individual. One is, I think we need to push a little bit further. I think these are great plans, but I think there's more that we can do. And I think we've heard a lot of that tonight. For downtown Los Altos, that one-way concept, I don't want to hear that it's too late. I mean, the problem is it always gets pushed off and then it's too early or it's too late. I just wonder when is this actually going to be discussed? Because I think it is something really worth looking at. It has many benefits for downtown, for the businesses, for the pedestrians, for the cyclists, for anyone recreating there. It creates more space. It may not be the right solution, but I think it's really worth taking a good, strong look at. Unprotected crosswalks in downtown Los Altos. I really think, and I hear what you said, Stephen, about the fire department's concern, but I actually think that raised crosswalks at those unprotected crosswalks are really a great way to protect pedestrians and protect drivers because it raises the visibility. It causes cars to slow down, which we want them to do. Driving 25 miles per hour in downtown Los Altos is not safe for anybody. So those raised crosswalks will get cars, especially at those uncontrolled intersections, which are close to where people are coming off of San Antonio or speeding up to get onto San Antonio because there's a green light. That will help really calm traffic in those areas. There's the one by Redberry, there's the two that radiate out from the corner of where State and Main are. And then there's on State Street by 4th, there's when you're crossing State Street, those are unprotected crosswalks. So I think those are really opportunities that you should look at as raised crosswalks. I would fight for them. Intersections. So when you have 4-way protected stop intersections, actually, I would love for you to think about raised intersections. It's actually, again, increases visibility. It's not as much of a hampering because you're not going over and up and over a speed hump or raised crosswalk. So it does a lot of the things you want it to do without really slowing down traffic. And you talk about California stops and all these problems with these stops. Well, if you can create that elevation change, it really will. I find that cars, whenever I see cars at those kinds of treatments, it really slows them down. It makes people so much safer. So I strongly encourage you to think about the raised crosswalks at the unprotected, the raised intersections potentially at the 4-way protected stops. And then the last thing I guess downtown is I saw ladder crosswalks for State Street and I saw continental crosswalks for Main Street. And I would love to see it be consistent. I actually do think that ladder crosswalks would be great because they have the most visibility. So that to me is more important than anything is the safety in downtown so people can feel comfortable being there, recreating there, shopping there. A few other intersections outside of downtown that are important to me, and you've talked about them, but the Hawthorne intersection on El Monte, that is such a common way that people get to and from downtown without going on Cuesta because Cuesta is scary as a pedestrian, as a cyclist. So I always use that one. My family uses that one. I see people all the time using that intersection. So just take a closer look at it and see what else can be done. Just a little extra attention there, I think would be appreciated. I don't have solutions, or suggestions for that one, but I just know that it's a really important intersection. And then there's University, last two, I'll mention on University at Edith. I think that's another opportunity for raised crosswalk. Right there at the intersection, making sure it's a ladder. And on the other side of that stretch where you get to Burke, yeah, I think someone else commented on a ladder would be better there. I agree. I think a ladder would be great there. And maybe there's an opportunity on one or two of the directions to raise the crosswalks there too. I just think that would be really helpful at that intersection. I could talk on many places, but those are the ones that rise to the top, and I'm happy to chat more about it. Thank you.
Every time, thank you very much. Last up and next up, Joe Woodford Fund.
Sorry.
All right, you can correct me for me here to speak about.
I'm gonna be speaking about the paving, the Los Altos paving plan. Thank you. This is really exciting. I remember last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, I didn't even know that this was happening. And all of these nice new lines showed up and green lines on the road, and I was like, wow, this is so great. And, you know, I am speaking on behalf of Safe Routes right now, but I want to say, like, I don't think most of the public knows about these things. They don't know. A lot of people don't even know there's a streets commission. They don't, and even the parents at schools. So my kids have gone to elementary, middle school, and high school in the area. And never once was there anyone telling us at school, and though we walked and biked every day, that there was something happening that was impacting our kids' ability and our ability to get to school. So I think that is a really big thing that we need to coordinate with the schools better and the school parent community a lot better. But now I'm just going to talk about some of these things that we talked about tonight. And, you know, looking into making Main Street and State Street a one-way loop, that's actually something I've heard from the public for years. And so I think it's important to know that's not just coming from, you know, a business group in downtown. That's something that like the public is really interested in seeing if that's possible as well. Also with raised crosswalks, I agree, like the Redberry crosswalk in particular is really dangerous. Also the one in front of the Cherry Cakes, I've seen people hit there, with children hit in that crosswalk. And many times people almost hit there. So, you know, those are particularly dangerous, I feel. Also in near Manresa at the corner where Cranberry Scoop is, I've seen people almost get hit multiple times there as well. So, you know, having something that really does force people to stop and look, or, you know, maybe even looking at bulldogs or something like that would help. And then all of the areas that Mark had mentioned as well. In particular, concern about safe routes to school, the Hawthorne for sure. I'm really happy to hear that that big bulb out is going to be closed in, because cars will literally come behind you and you're like sandwiched between two cars right there trying to get across the street. So it's really scary there. Also, I wanted to bring up the great, there was a comment in our letter at South Clark and El Monte, and I don't know if you can bring this up on the map, but there are students biking, like dozens and dozens of students through that path from Edith through the back of the Almond School, and adults ride there during the day. It's a great way to get to town hall and the library in a very low traffic way. They come out of that path and they don't go to the crosswalk. The first entrance, the first ramp out of that path is actually probably like 10 or 20 feet. And then they just bike right through the intersection and bike down Clark. And it would be great if there was a green marking so that cars expected that, because they're not expecting that at all. And I've seen so many times the cars just fly through the stop sign, not expecting these people who are on their bikes to actually ride through the intersection. I do want to make a couple comments on my own. I do agree with wider bike lanes where possible, because I see a lot of people running or biking with their kids right next to them. If we can make wider bike lanes, that's great. we need to make notice to the school newsletters or the PTAs before we do any decision-making around improvements around the schools. I think we should think about any roads that are coming off Foothill that are near schools, like Covington Road, Edith, Springer, all of these intersections within only, a very short distance, there's a school crossing, and I think we should have a speed bump to signal to people that you need to slow down, like especially on El Monte, especially on Edith, people are literally, El Monte's a downhill. They're going really fast. They have a dedicated right turn lane on Covington Road. They have a dedicated right turn lane on Cuesta. It's super dangerous. People are almost getting hit all the time there, or have been getting hit. And I think we should just really think about how do we traffic calm or create situations in which we can really slow people down and signal to them that there's pedestrians crossing the street. And again, that's my personal comment. And I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your 3 comments. We appreciate it. That is the end of our planned agenda, so I think this wraps us up. I know this has been, a topic that we planned for, which I'm actually happy that we've gotten the weeds on it. We've done a lot better from where we started last year, kind of actually getting into what our city looked like and how we navigate it, the challenges, and we still have more work to do, which is exciting. And I think it'll be helpful, Stephen, I guess, having that agenda that was requested by Commissioner Stacy to understand kind of our timelines and how we're working with this so we can plan effectively with the community and ourselves. But before I conclude, is there any final comments or statements that Commissioner wanted to make?
Yeah, I would just like to build on what you just said. Thank you for that. Because I guess I'm sitting here thinking about the next 2.5 weeks between now and our formal meeting, and whether there are any communication sessions that could potentially take place in those 2.5 weeks that we should know about now. Stephen.
Can you be specific about what you do in communication sessions?
Yeah, so I mean, is there anything gonna happen in the between now and our next meeting that as commissioners, we might wanna know about now so we can either attend or help facilitate?
Only meeting that I'm aware of at this time is trying to set up a meeting with the downtown coalition. Talk about the improvements that's being proposed for the downtown. That is looking on the 21st of this month. And then there's a second one in the beginning of next month. So we're trying to start the dialogue. Depending on the discussion, I may delay, especially the downtown, for a whole year, depending on how the discussion goes. So if that's the case, then I need to think about another project I need to get on immediately.
Okay. But there's nothing happening at the community level.
Not until our next meeting.
Okay, the other thing that I mentioned, one of our community members tonight talked about getting the PTA. I just wanted to mention that 3 years ago, I met with the superintendent and the board for the Los Altos school, with the Los Altos School Board. And they agreed, they have a newsletter that goes out, I think it's once a month, to all of the PTAs. And I met with them with the contractor who at that time was employed by the staff to educate schools. Now that contract is long gone. But if you wanted to actually get a letter out to the parents of the elementary school having to do with any kind of information that you want to get out there about what's happening or what's being planned and meetings they should attend, that's easy to arrange, but they just need a little bit of notice because they only meet once a month. So if you wanted to do that over the next 30 to 60 days, you can just go directly to the superintendent secretary and she'll put you on the agenda.
We have a planning meeting next week for, Chair West and myself to plan for next week's. We will make sure that we cover this in detail and work on that communication agenda and timing, and then account for comments made from the public for informing the residents of changes to the streets as well as schools in the area as well. And then we can review that as a commission in 2 weeks' time and then go from there, making your recommendations.
Overall, I think it'll be progress, like better than what's there now. So progress for multimodal things, all progress is good. The more progress we can have, the better.
In closing thoughts, but Stephen and Art, thank you for your presentation. I know it's a lot of feedback from us, but obviously it comes with intentions to make our city better and make our jobs easier in the future. So I appreciate, listening to the moment and taking our feedback. It means a lot to us.
That's the reason why we asked for this meeting.
Yeah, well, thank you, thank you. And Suresh, thank you for being here. Have a good day in India. And with that,
Thank you.
adjourning the meeting at 9:11.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.